I'm taking you back to 1989 today because it was on this day in 1989, the 25th of March, that Madonna was at number one on the UK singles chart. With that song right there, Like a Prayer, it was Madonna's sixth number one in the UK. It also went number one in the US. And you may recall, if you are of a certain vintage, that the song was accompanied by a highly controversial music video, which many years later was voted the most groundbreaking music video of all time. That vote coming by viewers of MTV. So take from that what you will. But as I recall, I can't remember, did Madonna kiss the statue of Jesus? I believe it was just that there was tears streaming down Jesus' face on the cross. That's what made it controversial. 1989, eh? Just imagine how much different we are. Our sensibilities have changed so dramatically since then. I'm not sure that would be seen as particularly controversial in 2026, all these 37 years later, but who knows? I almost also said that was a number one in 89 for Madonna, but I realized you can't say stuff like that anymore because this is 2026. 37 years. Nobody will just assume it was 1989 anymore, right? We're getting older. One day at a time, just a wee bit older. 3 minutes after 9 on this Wednesday morning, the 25th of March. Welcome to the show. Thanks very much for stopping by, spending some of that valuable time with us. We love having you here, and your support of this program and this station is very much appreciated. I don't know if I could say it strongly enough, but I mean it. Thanks for being here. Phone lines open the minute we begin the show every day. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I feel obligated to warn you because I myself was warned yesterday. So from the older gentleman that passed me in Victoria Park to you this morning, here is your warning. And I quote, "They're here. The sleeper cells from Iran are already here. They're going to start bombing parks." That was the warning that was given me. I'm not sure how seriously it needs to be taken. I don't want to start panic in the streets by any stretch of the imagination. But Rosie and I went out for a nice long walk yesterday, and we had a call towards the end of the show from Barb, who talked about gathering places and how she felt as though we were lacking in those gathering places. And one of my favorite places, I mean, every one of our crown jewel parks, and I think each city has one, right? Waterloo Park is an absolute gem. Riverside Park in Cambridge, utterly fantastic. And of course, Victoria Park in Kitchener. And I almost went down to Riverside Park, but I always feel it's a little bit strange to load the dog into the car and drive to a place we're going to walk. So Rosie and I just embarked on a long walk. It was a nice day for it. The sun was out a little bit, and we went through Victoria Park, which is very nostalgic for me. I have many a fond memory of going there as a kid. It felt like we were going a million miles away from home. Of course, we had to drive to get there, but it was the big park, right, with all the cool equipment in it. And let me tell you, like, that park still holds up just fine. Thank you very much. A beautiful park in the heart of downtown Kitchener. And as Rosie and I exited the Iron Horse Trail into the park, an older gentleman on a bicycle came riding up. He started calling out to me as if we were old friends. I'm like, do I know this guy? And then he stopped just for a moment and let me know that they are here. The sleeper cells from Iran are already here. They're going to start bombing parks. So I just thanked him for the information and continued along my way with Rosie. And he continued on his way on his bicycle. And it made me a little bit sad. I mean, obviously, there is a great weight to the stories in the news today. And obviously, this gentleman is feeling the weight of so many different things, that this is what's on his mind, and he needs to stop and tell somebody else in Victoria Park that this is what's on his mind. We got some good news this morning. If you consider a 10 to 15 cent drop in the price of gas good news, which of course it is. I mean, even on a 50-liter tank. I think I got about 55 liters on my car, but that's $5 to $8 in savings on a fill up if you're filling up from empty. So can't beat that, right? I say it's somewhat good news though, because we know the price is going to go back up. And frankly, even though the price has come down by 10 to 15 cents, it's still more than $1.60 per liter. So wake me up when we get back to 39.9 cents a liter. When I first started driving back in the 1980s, that's what the price per liter of gasoline was. And I remember vividly, I was working in Toronto for the first time. This was late 90s, early 2000. And I had this apartment, a basement apartment out. I was so far east in Scarborough, I was basically in, what do they call that? At Kingston Road, it changes and doesn't matter. I was near the zoo anyway. Like I was way closer to the zoo than I was any part of downtown Toronto for sure, and any part of the main part of Scarborough. But nonetheless, I was way out east Scarborough, basement apartment. And when I would drive to work to get to the 401, I would come down a hill, and at the bottom of the hill was a gas station where I usually filled up. And I remember when that gas station got north of 60 cents per liter. And I'm like, there is no way I'm paying 60 cents for a liter of gas. So when I would see it creep up to 60.3 cents or 61.2, whatever it happened to be, I'm like, no, I'm waiting. I'm waiting till that gas comes back down to 59 point something before I buy, because I refuse to pay 60 cents a liter. And here we are, $1 more per liter than that. And at $1 more per liter than that 60 cents all those years ago, we're like, wow, it's come down in price. This is where we are at. But I was listening to All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, and they informed me of this dramatic drop in the price of gas and that you can find it for $1.63 a liter around this region today. I thought, that's pretty cool. Great stuff. I don't need gas right now. But then I went past this gas station on Ira Needles that I usually fill up at, and it was at $1.68. So I'm thinking that because I fill up where I fill up because it's convenient. Like how easy is it? Just going past it on the way to or from work, right? But if it's $1.63 on average around the region, and the gas station where I usually fill up is $1.68, and I've also run into these problems before where I fill up in the morning on the way in, and then when I come home later in the day, the price is so much higher. I'm like, I'm starting to think it maybe not just me, it's the gas station. I'm going to find a different gas station to fill up at. Thank you very much. Because I'm not going to pay an extra 5 cents per liter. Why would I do that? Have I mentioned how cheap I am? Anyway, gas is down. You might find it for as low as $1.63. Enjoy it while you can. Something else occurred to me while I was listening to All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, when Simon Bennett came on with the sports and reminded me that the Leafs played last night. I hate to say I've become such a fair weather fan, but am I ever a fair weather fan? Like I'm still a Leafs fan, but I could not possibly care less that there was a Leafs game last night. I paid precisely zero attention to it. I watched an old DVD of Magnum PI last night instead of even thinking of turning on the Leafs game. Thank goodness I've got my Kitchener Rangers, because I don't know what I would do with. Maybe then I would subject myself to watching the Leafs, but I have paid no attention for the last while because I just don't care. They're not playing well enough. It's not interesting enough. They're not in contention for anything. I think that makes me a fair weather fan. I think a lot of us became Blue Jays fans again last season, and the new Blue Jays season starts on Friday. Our boy, Blue Jay Hunter, is going to be here this morning at 11, and he will be here with us every Wednesday morning through the season to talk some Blue Jays baseball. So keep that in mind as we move ahead with today's show. Let's get to the phones. Kevin is with us early this morning. Hey, Kevin, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Good morning. Here is my question.
Okay.
I've been kind of investigating why there is a gas price difference between different companies, and somewhere I read that it's because sometimes they get from different supplier. Well, that kind of, answered my question. Maybe they buy from them. But here is what happened to me Saturday night. 11:30 at night, I'm at Homer Watson on Pioneer, and I'm filling up a gas at a regular fuel at 1.58, $1.58. I fill up. I come about 15 minutes later. I arrive by my home around Bridge and University. There is another SOS station, same company. It's at 178. That is almost the difference between the price of the gas before the war and after the war, about 20-something, 30 cents. And I couldn't get my head around it. I'm like, why would a same company at the same time of the day or night, it's that much of a difference? So I'm puzzled. I just really want to find out. And I understand, like, maybe you go 2-3 cents difference between gas station, 162, 165. I understand that. But almost 30 cents? Come on. What's going on here? Same company, Esso. So anyway, I hope somebody can answer my question that why it's that much of a difference.
All right, Kevin. I appreciate the call. I have long given up. And I guess there's two reasons I've given up on trying to figure this out. One is I don't drive nearly as much as I used to, so I'm not as impacted by the price of gas. When I was commuting greater distances and filling up at least once a week, sometimes more than once a week, you're forever watching the price, right? To see when you can get the best deal and fill up for as little as possible. But the other reason I gave up is because it'll drive you nuts. It'll drive you batty trying to make sense of it all. I have just resigned myself to the fact that I'm getting ripped off, and I truly believe that. And if I want to drive a vehicle, then this is the cost of doing business. And I just suck it up. I don't know what that makes me, except exasperated. Walter, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Mike, I heard you talking about the price of gas, and it started me thinking. I remember when I was a wee lad that, I'd go into the gas station with my parents. And mind you, it was still imperial measurements back then, but we were paying 40 cents a gallon.
Oh, 10 cents a liter.
That's about what we were paying.
Yeah.
And look where we're at now. But that all, it all seems to fluctuate a lot right now. Every time that Orange Man in the South down there opens up his mouth one way or another. I mean, like you saw the bond market there rallied like almost 1,000 points there because he halted those hits that he was going to do on their infrastructure over in Iran. So the bond market goes up, and all he's got to do is open up his mouth one way or another, and it goes up and down, as goes, the price of oil and gas. And it's up to each station. I found a station that is consistently, the lowest gas that I've have anywhere in Waterloo Region almost. And thank God it's in my area. And so, I'll be hitting that today because
You're not gonna tell? Come on, Walter. Share the good news with the class.
No.
Why? What do you mean? No.
I'm not sharing because I don't want to have to wait in a ginormous line.
You are not. Caring is sharing. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Okay, teacher.
Okay. Walter? Are you going to tell us where the good gas price is?
Why? Why do you want to know, Mike?
I want to get the good price.
It's any savings that you would have.
Walter, I'm going to give you one more chance. Are you going to tell us where we get the good price on gas?
Okay, it's in Cambridge.
Where?
Oh, on Hesper Road.
Walter. All right, that's. I'm done with you today. I am done with you today. Come in here and yank my chain like that. I'm trying to get some good information for people, get some cheap gas out there somewhere. Rick, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Rick, 137 here.
Farwell's Force member number, you beauty. How are you?
Pretty good. Fine, thanks.
Good.
I don't talk about the price of gas a whole lot because you can't control it. Just got to get it after the Ranger games on Friday night at Victoria Street and the way home back to beautiful downtown Maryhill.
Sure.
And use any card you can get to get incentives. But being you're talking about, I have a bit of time. My brother-in-law watches something called the rack price. And I don't follow it, but he does. And the rack price is actually daily, and it's at the terminal when the trucks are pulling out of the terminal with the fuel in them. And that's the price that it pulls out with that price. And as an example, this morning, right now, they pull out of Toronto, it's $1.19.7. And, okay, there's trucking costs and everything else, but that rack price doesn't change a whole lot. It doesn't go up and down like a toilet seat, like the gas guru says. And that would be a topic maybe to ask the gas gurus sometime, both of them, Dan McTagg and Ted McKnight, both of them, and ask them, the rack price doesn't go sky high all of a sudden. Like, it's very stable. So that tells you something right there, and it's all documented. It's all public information. You can go right on the internet, and you can go Petro-Can rack pricing, Shell rack pricing. It goes all the way from Halifax, St. John's, New Brunswick, Regina, Saskatchewan, Kamloops, to Nanaimo, BC. And that's from the company itself, from Petro-Can. So is it the gas stations themselves that are, jerking us around? But we can't control it. But it's just a little bit of information for maybe our 37 other listeners to. We're at 300 now. to go over, and it does bug you a little bit. But the rack price is what the trucker, what's on the books for the price that minute when the truck pulls out, and you can see it every day. And it doesn't fluctuate like the gas stations do. But anyway.
All right, Rick. Good to hear from you. Thanks for that.
We'll see you Friday.
Look forward to it. Now, I don't know how I feel, though. I think I might feel a little bit worse. And yes, we have grown to more than the 45 listeners I used to joke about. That's how Farwell's Force began. It started as just a joke. Oh, yeah, the 45 listeners of this show. And somebody said, I want to be listener number 46. So we added listener number 46 officially, wrote down his name. And ever since then, we have just continued to add names. I thought, okay, wouldn't it be fun if we can actually fill in numbers 1 through Andrew at 46? And now we are a force that has grown beyond 350 members, if you can believe it. We are a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. We just added Michael and Leanne to the list earlier, or EJ and Michael to the list earlier this week. Leanne already was in there at 355. So we're climbing this force for good. And if you'd like to join it, by all means, feel free, because it is free. All it costs you, I guess I should qualify. It costs you 15 minutes every day. If you listen for 15 minutes every day, you too can be a Farwell's Force member in good standing and join our growing force for good. Just drop me an email, Mike at 570news.com. We will assign you a Farwell's Force number. 5 is the operative number right now. Your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning, the 25th of March. Number 1, Penny and Manfred Conrad have been named the 66th Citizens of the Year by the Kitchener Lions Club. The pair known today for numerous initiatives, but also their company, the Cora Group. I'm sure you've seen the signs on various buildings around town. The local developer is recognized as being a leader in environmental innovation, including supporting Canada's first zero-carbon building in the UW Research Park and developing over 2 million square feet of office space, primarily in the downtown of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Sudbury. The Conrads, both Penny and Manfred, will be honored in a special fundraising gala on May the 28th. Number 2, how about a new legacy walk in Kitchener? Ward 7 Councillor Bill Ioannidis thinks it's a good idea.
Kitchener has produced individuals who have achieved international recognition in arts, sports, entertainment, science, and more. These stories deserve to be visible, celebrated, and shared with the world. A legacy walk gives us that permanent public way to honor these achievements.
Ioannidis' motion at Monday's council meeting was endorsed unanimously by his colleagues. The hope is to launch the legacy walk in 2029, which would be Kitchener's 175th anniversary as a city. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Waterloo Region's 2025 Athlete of the Year is used to getting to the top of challenges. It's champion climber Madison Richardson. Explore Waterloo Region says Richardson is known for her powerful climbing style and consistent performances on the international stage. Meantime, Brady Martin from Elmira, who plays with the OHL's Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, was the winner of the Outstanding Athletic Achievement Award at last night's ceremony at Binghamton's. Martin played, of course, in the World Juniors that began on Boxing Day and was drafted 5th overall into the NHL with Nashville last year. Number 4, the Guelph Sports Hall of Fame Board of Directors has announced the names of its 2026. See how it went there? There are 5 inductees for 2026 into the Guelph Sports Hall of Fame, and the inductees are Doug Risebrough. You'll know that name from hockey. My old buddy Dino Rommel from baseball. Dino and I used to host a sports show together on Rogers TV. Paul Dvorsky in the builder category from hockey. Jennifer Nadalin, a basketball player. And Ron Nickel, a fastball player. Those are the 5 inductees into the Guelph Sports Hall of Fame for 2026. They will be feted at a dinner on May the 20th at the Italian-Canadian Club in Guelph. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, officials say Iran has received an American plan to pause the war in the Middle East. Israel and the U.S. launched this war more than 3 weeks ago.
Bueller.
That is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning, the 25th of March. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Just a quick thought on that legacy walk being proposed for Kitchener. I love the idea. I think it's inspiring for us to be reminded of those who were here before and achieved some level of international recognition, from their humble roots here in the beautiful city of Kitchener to goodness knows what. And certainly there are a number of people that we could think of to celebrate. It's just my hope, because maybe we've moved past this era. Was it an era? Was it a passing fad or trend of some kind where we wanted to remove all things named because those people who had been named had some sort of character flaw or something like that? I hope that once we start putting names onto some permanent legacy walk, then somebody doesn't come around 20, 30, or 75 years later and say, well, wait a minute, what are you doing with that name there? Did you know what that person did? Maybe we have moved past that phase of our existence. An update from the 570 News Center is coming up, and then let's talk about government misspending, particularly Ontario. Do you think $36 billion has been misspent? Well, somebody does, and we'll tell you who coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Just a note from that last story Christine Clark just told us. John Graddick will join our show this morning, a couple hours from now, around 11:45, to talk about that crash at LaGuardia, the subsequent investigation, and yes, air traffic controllers and the rigors of the job. So John Graddick from McGill University on our show this morning to talk about the latest in that fatal crash at 11:45. Tomorrow, in case you'd forgotten, is Budget Day in Ontario. Our Finance Minister, Peter Bethlen-Falvey, will deliver the document tomorrow afternoon. We've already got some of the opposition lined up tomorrow on the show to talk about what they hope the budget contains. But as we get ready for that tomorrow, what about the misspending that this government has been responsible for? A group has tracked, since Doug Ford came to office in 2018, $36 billion in documented government misspending. That is a very big number. Tara Gillespie is a researcher with the Civic Coalition and a member of OPSU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. joins us to talk more about it. Tara, good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell me first a little more about this Civic Coalition? What groups are represented here? Who is the Civic Coalition?
So the Civic Coalition is OPSU. It is the Center or the CFS Ontario, the Students Federation. It is CUPE. It is the Ontario Federation for Labour, OFL. And at our press release, we also had the Environmental Defence Fund and the folks from Ontario Place for All there. So it's really a wide net.
How did you arrive at the $36 billion figure in government misspending?
A lot of math and a lot of spreadsheets. Every number in there is sourced from government records. It's double-checked. It's triple-checked. And it's actually on the conservative side. We wanted to make sure that every number in there was fairly bulletproof. It's all coming from the government budget itself. It's coming from the Financial Accountability Office. It's coming from auditors' records. And it's only counting stuff that is above and beyond original quotes, is above and beyond what any other, person in Doug Ford's position could have reasonably made a different choice. So it's very thorough. It's on the conservative side. And the fact is that it's going to keep growing.
The amount of misspending will keep growing?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
Well, we haven't counted things that are hypotheticals that we've already seen Doug Ford talk about, such as the convention center downtown that he says he wants to build. And some of these projects that have gone forward, especially on infrastructure, they come with long-term costs to upgrade and keep afloat in 30 to 40 years from now. So this number is, again, on the conservative side, and it's going to just keep on growing. And so that's really what we want to draw attention to, because at the same time, other areas of government are saying we don't have enough money to do things like fund ODSP, pay for nurses, pay for the things that really matter to people in Ontario.
What do you hope documenting this misspending will accomplish? What are you hoping to achieve here?
I think what we're hoping to achieve isn't just that we've documented it, it's that we've contextualized it. On the site, it's on Ford.ca. We also have a section for a calculator so that folks can see what that money could have been spent on. It's not just a complaint, it is a solution. You can see that, I know in Kitchener recently, the St. Mary's General Hospital had to cut 11 nursing positions. You can use the calculator to see what that would have cost. And if I look at, alcohol privatization and Ford's moves on that cost us $1.4 billion. That could have paid for over 28,000 nursing positions. That is a really important context for us to look at when we're talking about government spending. When one group of people are constantly being told there's not enough money, but then there's enough money to speed up the sale of alcohol in convenience stores.
What are you hoping to see in tomorrow's budget?
Hope is a strong word, but I am hoping to see that some of the hard work that has been going on for the last few years of people advocating for fairer budgets is reflected in the budget. I'm hoping to see the Ministry of Child and Social Services have a steady, fair increase. We're hoping to see that the budget is good for people who want stable, long-term jobs, and it really favors the Ontario people and not just the patronage of Ford's Conservatives.
Tara, I appreciate the time on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Tara Gillespie joins us. Tara is a researcher with the Civic Coalition and a member of OPSU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. This Civic Coalition consists of the Canadian Federation of Students, CUPE, Ontario, Environmental Defence, the Ontario Federation of Labour, and OPSU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. as is always the case, we have to bear in mind from which direction this information is coming. But it's difficult to dispute the cold reality that the numbers reveal. And we've been aware of this since the get-go, right? Remember the canceling of the sticker renewal on license plates and the money that cost provincial coffers, followed not long after by the... I mean, come on. If it wasn't a bribe ahead of the election when we got some money sent back to us by the provincial government not long before the 2025 election, and that was a $3 billion gift, and we were even talking then about what we would or could do with an additional $3 billion in provincial funding. How do you suddenly find it just to put back in people's pockets? Understanding that, of course, we like having money in our pockets. I get that, but it was already gone. So presumably we were figuring out how to live without it. Might there have been a better place to put that $3 billion than back into everybody's pocket? Even something more targeted, I think, would have been more appropriate. Just looking at some of the numbers, and again, these are the numbers, so you decide how they make you feel. But there was $75 million spent on that advertising campaign featuring Ronald Reagan that aired in the United States that really upset Donald Trump. But it was airing for a few days and then pulled, but that cost $75 million. There have been multiple court cases that cost more than $4 million. In one of those cases, trying to defend a cap on wage increases for public sector workers, including those frontline nurses. And that was deemed unconstitutional, but the provincial government took it to court twice, costing more than $4 million. Then there was $1 billion for a corporate bailout in 407 fees. And another one of the big ones, and we remember this when alcohol was privatized, as much as I support having greater access to, because I've long thought that our alcohol laws here in Ontario are beyond archaic. It's just ridiculous how little availability there is. I was all for ending the monopoly that the beer stores and the LCBO had, but to accelerate that process and spend more than $1 billion in so doing defies logic from where I'm sitting. And then, of course, we can go on from there. There has been a feasibility study, at least ordered, requested. I don't think it's been started yet, but I want to say it's in the millions of dollars, but the feasibility study for the tunnel under the 401. Nobody in their right mind should be considering a tunnel under the 401 as a means of alleviating congestion on the 401. And the fact that we're going to spend millions on even a feasibility study defies logic to me. When it comes to the Ontario Place situation, the idea of a convention center, a bigger, better, bolder convention center in downtown Toronto, I waffle a little more on projects like that because I'll compare it to things I've said here in the region as well. We need some shiny objects here. We really do. Not everything can be, not all of our energy can be directed towards solving problems. And when we create these magnificent spaces, whether you think they're magnificent or not, and we can have that conversation always, but when we create spaces like this for people to gather, for people to enjoy, it does add to the vibrancy of a community. I don't know that Toronto in any way can be described as world-class lately. I have visited some other large cities, New York chief amongst them, and I think New York's got it head and shoulders above us here in Ontario and our mega city of Toronto in a variety of ways. But when we create places and spaces like that, not only do we create jobs in getting them built, but then we have the people employed within them, the tourist dollars that come with it, the stimulation of the economy, et cetera. So I'm a little bit less frustrated by those ideas and or expenditures because I think there's a payback. You're not getting back the $1.4 billion that was spent to speed up the privatization of alcohol in this province, right? We're not getting back the $3 billion that I believe this province whizzed away in trying to bribe us ahead of the most recent election. We're not getting back the $75 million that was spent on a U.S.-based advertising campaign and so on and so forth. I am confident in saying that this provincial government has been anything but conservative when it comes to its fiscal track record. So ahead of the budget tomorrow, what I'm curious about from you is, it's a two-parter, but where do you think the government has overspent or misspent, the provincial government? Or where would you like to see the government spend more? So where could it be spending less? Where could it be spending more? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. I'm always reminded of a conversation we had with former Liberal MPP and Cabinet Minister John Malloy. And he talked about a meeting where a bunch of ministers were sitting around a table, and the question was, if you had one more dollar to invest, where would you invest it? And depending on who we are, we'd each have a different priority when it comes to that. And that's where it gets far more complicated, I think, than we would like it to be, right? Don't spend $3 billion putting money back into the pockets of Ontarians as a bit of a pre-election bribe. Spend that $3 billion on frontline medical care, on homelessness issues, whatever, right? Those are the sorts of things that I can kind of get behind rather easily. When it comes to where are we going to spend more? Is it going to be on healthcare? Is it going to be on education? Is it going to be on big projects like convention centers and science centers and whatnot? Where are you putting it? So where would you like to see the provincial government spend less? Where would you like to see the provincial government spend more? Would love to get your thoughts. Listen, if we don't start taking care of the debt that we are carrying here in Ontario, oh my goodness gracious, we're not going to have anything left over to spend. It'll all be just on service to the debt. The budget's tomorrow. Where could we spend more? Where could we spend less? Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. We'll take calls after this on 570 News Radio.
This number is, again, on the conservative side, and it's going to just keep on growing. And so that's really what we want to draw attention to, because at the same time, other areas of government are saying we don't have enough money to do things like fund ODSP, pay for nurses, pay for the things that really matter to people in Ontario.
That is Tara Gillespie, a researcher with the Civic Coalition and a member of OPSU, the Ontario Public Service Employees Union. That is one of the organizations involved in this Civic Coalition. It's also including the Canadian Federation of Students, CUPE Ontario, Environmental Defence, and the Ontario Federation of Labour. They have calculated, and the numbers are laid bare for us to digest, $36 billion in government misspending since 2018. That is since Doug Ford became premier of this province and the Progressive Conservatives became the government of the day. And quite frankly, there is little indication that they won't be the government of tomorrow, because the opposition in this province right now is rather anemic, at least the political opposition. So does this track record, does this trend come to an end anytime soon? I feel as though it is unlikely. If we could spend $1 more on something in that budget tomorrow, what would that dollar be spent on? Or if you would like to see $1 less being spent on something else, what would you spend less on? 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. I think my priority right now, and it comes from a more personal place after I had a chat with my best buddy the other week. I think I'm going to put the money into healthcare. And I know, as I said earlier, I mean, everybody's priority is going to be different, and there are absolutely multiple priorities. But it really hit home for me last week in this chat with my buddy, and then when I was listening to Rob Snow yesterday afternoon talking about long-term care and, you know, how that system is working out. So my best buddy's dad had moved into a senior's residence about a year ago. I can't remember the exact dates, but anyway, has fallen into poorer health and has now been moved to a place where he gets much more hands-on care, which is wonderful and lovely. And I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did, that he was able to get into this place seamlessly. So he's getting much closer attention, the care that he needs, and it's wonderful. And I should also preface this by letting you know that my buddy is about as, if not more cheap than I am. But he expressed his frustration at how much it was costing for his father to be in this place where he's getting hands-on care for his declining health. So he's the seniors community, so he's got that aspect with the socialization amongst his peers, and he's getting the all-important care. Now, I didn't want to pry. It's not my business how much it's costing to be in this particular home here in the region, but I understand that over the course of a year, I mean, we're into the tens of thousands of dollars for somebody to remain in care like that. And it struck me that, I mean, isn't this really sort of part of our overall healthcare system from cradle when we first come out of the womb to grave at the end of things? And aren't we really in a tiered situation then already? A public-private kind of situation? Because my buddy's father worked for the federal government for his entire career. I'm certain that he's got a pretty darn okay pension. And it wasn't too long ago that they sold the family home, which will put a pretty darn good chunk of change into my buddy's dad's bank account. But if he didn't have those things, so I think I'm sure he'll be okay financially. But we know that we're living longer lives now. And what about for people that aren't of those same means as my buddy's dad, that didn't have the big family home to sell, that didn't have again, I didn't ask, but I think we can all understand that working 40 years for the federal government, you're going to have a pretty okay pension. What about people that don't? What becomes of them when they are in the situation that my buddy's dad is in, where they need more of this hands-on care? They can afford it. That's great. What about the rest of us who can't afford that? I feel as though that is a pretty big gap right now in our overall system of healthcare. So if I had an extra buck to put into the budget tomorrow, it would go into healthcare somewhere along the continuum. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center, and then let's mind Ottawa's business together, shall we? Blacklock's reporter joins us next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Every Wednesday morning after our 10 a.m. update, we check in with our friends in Ottawa at the Blacklock's Reporter. This is the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. The managing editor there is Tom Korski, who joins us for these weekly chats. Mr. Korski, good morning.
Morning, Mike.
The Auditor General had her say earlier this week. We were looking forward to this as much as one can look forward to an AG's report. But a couple of things jump out, one regarding foreign students, another regarding the RCMP. Let's start on the students' side of things, Tom. Apparently, we weren't even bothering to follow up with those who may have been here under fraudulent basis.
Astonishing audit, Mike. It's absolutely a devastating audit. And I don't know why the minister hasn't resigned. I'm serious. The auditors, and I have to say Auditor General Karen Hogan is not a real hellraiser as far as auditors go. And so she's pretty buttoned down. When Auditor Hogan comes in with a report like this, you say, my goodness, what did she say? She said the department did not care about suspected fraud. Even when they learned of suspected fraud, they did not care. And this was not incidental. This involved hundreds of cases where they bothered to make cursory investigations. And further, that they lost track of many, many tens of thousands of foreign students. The implication was clear, Mike, that a couple of things happened. There were, whether they were brokers or whether they were wily individuals, were gaming the system. They were short-circuiting the entire immigration system under the guise of being students, air quotes, foreign students. And the other implication was, and this has been demonstrated by some of the documents we've seen from the Department of Employment, it cost Canadian students jobs. And it wasn't incidental. It was the jobless rate for Canadian students, college universities, was 19%. And it went through the roof the very minute that Cabinet lifted regulations that capped the number of hours foreign students could work in the labor force. So here you look at a single policy, it's spectacular. It inspired fraud that was never checked, and it cost Canadians jobs. Like, talk about getting it coming and gone.
Well, and yes, that and the fact that the immigration minister continues to insist we were doing our job, but isn't your job to follow up on those fraudulent cases that you were well aware of? Like, how does that not get done?
I think I can answer that question. It's not entirely supposition based on some of the public statements from the past and some of the internal records we've seen. You do ask yourself, what were they thinking? They convinced themselves of an economic theory. It's a peculiar economic theory, and we don't know what convinced them, but they were convinced that they needed immigrants to fund their unfunded social programs and help pay some of their deficits. And they convinced themselves the more, the merrier. This was literally the immigration policy. The more the merrier. If it's pedicab drivers from Jakarta gaming the system through fraud, whatever, Mike. They're going to come to Canada, they're going to settle down, and they're going to pay our taxes, and they're going to help us out of our financial problems. All of those suppositions are wrong. I can point you to Bank of Canada research that says that is literally untrue. But that was the philosophy. Because otherwise you'd have to say, this is almost like, this is reckless to a degree that's spectacular. You couldn't run a food truck this way. But that's how they ran the immigration policy of a G7 country.
And on the RCMP front, Tom, I mean, so much money spent on recruitment, on training, and yet we are still short thousands of RCMP officers.
Recruitment has been a problem for years, for about 10 to 15 years. For the longest time, they said it was because Mounties weren't unionized and they couldn't compete with municipal pay scales. And indeed, the Mounties were underpaid compared to municipal police forces that had unions. That's not an excuse anymore. They've been unionized for a decade. Whatever their difficulty is, they're spending a lot of money not solving it. Auditor comes up with a figure. The cost to attract and train a new constable is $247,000 at the RCMP. These are not astronauts or biochemists. Literally, to train and hire a constable, over $250,000 is your average cost. And they still can't get enough to train and hire, to which the commissioner said, we move forward. That was his statement, quote, end of quote. They're not getting it done, Mike.
We are moving forward, Tom. Every day is one day closer to the time that we must declare our illegal firearms in this country. Our public safety minister remains, cautiously optimistic that firearms owners are going to sign on to this buyback program?
Well, caution and optimism are the only two tools he has, because the deadline is the end of the month. This is to register for compensation purposes assault-style, air quotes, assault-style firearms. They count about 166,000 of them. Fewer than a third have been registered by owners for compensation. the amnesty period on people who own these now blacklisted firearms expires at Halloween. So the Minister of Public Safety, Gary Anand Desangri, faces the prospect that literally tens of thousands of firearms owners are going to be subject to criminal prosecution. Although we know that there are many police forces have said, we want nothing to do with this. This looks like a boar's nest, not interested. It's not fighting crime. What is it about? Well, we know, actually, Gary said so in a conversation with a constituent. You remember that, Mike, back last fall. It was recorded and leaked. He said this was about politics in Quebec, getting 43 Liberal MPs reelected. That's not going to get it done. So anyway, he's counting down the hours on their self-imposed deadline. This has Lusitania written all over it.
I love the reference. I love it. And remind me again, Tom, this is a $750 million, $750 million program, and hope is the plan. I think I've heard that hope is no kind of plan.
Well, cautious.
Cautious hope.
They even had to qualify the hope.
Cautiously hopeful. Okay, federally, we spent $2 billion on electric bus subsidies. How's our ROI on that one, Tom?
This is fascinating. They did. This was a program by Environment Minister Catherine McKenna in the day, and it was to pay municipalities to buy electric buses, which everyone knows are more expensive than diesel buses. But climate, it was about the children, she said. And the Department of Environment and Cabinet was asked, what research, now that you've had 5 years' worth of practical experience and paid out billions and billions of dollars, paid out about $2.3 billion so far, how are those buses doing in the winter months with the minus 20 and the snow? And they came back and said in a document table in Cabinet, well, we don't know because we never asked and no one ever told us. By the way, you don't have to be a car guy. Cornell University actually looked into this upstate New York. And they looked at winter driving conditions for battery electric buses in upstate New York, where they do have winter, everyone knows. And apparently, Mike, I hope you're sitting down for this, it's really bad. When it gets cold, the life of the battery drops like a stone, and then your costs go up. And we know there's even to the point where some electric buses, air quotes, have diesel backup. So you come up with the most expensive option that does the least for the environment. But they didn't follow the science, Mike. It was kind of a philosophy. It was cautious hope for $2 billion.
I cautiously hope we'll see some of that money again someday.
Never.
No.
You know that.
True story. Right here where I live, we also brought in some electric buses, and then we had to pull them off the road because they did not have enough charge in that battery, Tom, to run the route it was assigned to run.
Oh, Mike, in Edmonton, city of Edmonton, they pulled half their electric buses off the road. They get minus 30 like nobody's business. Anyone who's ever tried to run a battery for any purpose, taken a photo, it doesn't matter. When it gets down to minus 20, forget it. Anyone could have told them that.
All right, one more before I let you go, and I want to still focus on this ROI idea here, because the money that has been provided Canada Post for emergency financing. I hate to keep coming back to Canada Post, but what's our ROI there?
Well, it turns out that it is only figuratively, really philosophically called a loan. Over $2 billion has gone by Cabinet to Canada Post. By the way, this was to keep them from literally shutting down operations, according to Cabinet and according to the Post Office management. $2 billion went out, not a loan per se. There's no interest charged. Well, who wouldn't love this? And there's no schedule of repayment. So you don't have to pay interest, and you get around to repaying the taxpayers when you feel like it. The legislators are getting very nervous, Mike. A lot of money has gone out for Canada Post to cover these, save them from insolvency, and they don't see any reforms happening. They've been very slow. And as one MP put it in the Public Accounts Committee, this is like throwing money down a toilet, but this is many, many billions of dollars.
Perhaps I could start my own corporation and call it Canada Paste or something and get one of those loans that don't have a repayment schedule or interest attached to them.
I love the language, though. When they do, they call it a loan, because you don't want to call it a giveaway or a boondoggle. That's just a pejorative. That gets taxpayers upset. If you call it a loan, it's like no one maybe will even notice.
Let's not pay attention. I'm glad you are, Tom. I'm glad you are, and I appreciate these chats each week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski, managing editor at the Blacklocks Reporter, joins us every Wednesday morning just after our 10 a.m. update as we mind Ottawa's business with the Blacklocks Reporter. You can find more of those stories or stories just like that at blacklocks.ca. Well worth your subscription at blacklocks.ca. Tom Korski, managing editor there, joins us every Wednesday morning here on the Mike Farwell Show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is coming up on that time of the day, isn't it? The time of the day that I promise to you, and I deliver every day, in and around 10:20 in the morning. I'll remind you that not everybody is a jackwagon. I know we get frustrated. I know that person that didn't use their turn signal as you were driving to work today or whatnot have you gets you really frustrated. But there are good people doing good things. And every day around 10:20 on this show, we remind you of those very things. Your daily reminder that not everybody is a jackwagon is coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Just thinking back on that conversation with Tom Korski, managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter, who joins us every Wednesday morning just after the 10 a.m. news to share some of what Blacklocks is covering in Ottawa, and that story about the $2 billion in federal subsidies that were given to those transit fleets going electric without even checking into the vehicle's performance in the winter. And what I said during that chat was absolutely true about the electric buses that we brought here and then realized, sadly, that they did not have enough in the tank, so to speak, to cover an entire route. And of course, it's not feasible to be having a bus go out for 3/4 of its scheduled route, only to have to come back and be recharged. So something that we've been trying to tweak right here in the region. And of course, one of the other stories is the public safety minister's cautious optimism that firearms owners are going to sign on to the federal gun buyback program, deadline for which is the end of this month. So we're counting down the days. And as I'm sure you have heard, I've received a few emails from you about it. In fact, regional police here in Waterloo Region are intending to support the federal gun buyback program. No, that does not mean that as of April 1st, they're going to come bang on your door and demand that you hand over firearms. It's not like that, but they will be supporting the federal legislation here in the region. Meantime, in Guelph, police there say, listen, we've got enough to do than try to follow along with this federal protocol. So they're not following through in Guelph, but here in the region they will be. And we will talk to Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell about that when he next joins us on the show, which will be 2 weeks yesterday, the first Tuesday of every month, 11 until noon. So the next scheduled date for Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell is Tuesday, the 7th of April. And we'll talk about the federal gun buyback and how regional police are supporting that, among other things, when we have Ask the Chief. First Tuesday of every month on the show between 11 and noon. Okay, right around this time every day, we like to pause from some of the heavier stuff just for a moment and remind you that there are good things happening out there. Some of them right here in our own backyard, gosh darn it. Yesterday, I was able to share with you a phone call we received on Monday from Karen, who told us about the Air Community Theatre and its production that opens tonight, runs through Sunday. Queen Millie of Galt is the production, and $3 from every ticket sold is going to be going towards helping those folks who were displaced by that fire in downtown Ayr a few weeks ago. So great to see. We rally around one another here in the region, don't we? Heck, I could give another shout out to that older fella who warned me about the sleeper cells from Iran that are here in the region and they're going to bomb parks. I should stop trying to say that with any degree of seriousness, but I just thought it was a chuckleable, I made that word up, encounter as Rosie the pandemic pup and I walked through Victoria Park yesterday. This older gentleman on a bike had to stop and let me know they're here. The sleeper cells from Iran, they're here, and they intend on bombing our parks. That's not really going to happen. I have no indication. This is not a source that I would describe as reliable. It was just a gentleman who had something on his mind. But I want to, appreciate him for his interest in warning me of the danger that lurked in Victoria Park yesterday. We walked through unscathed and enjoyed our time together immensely. Today's story that reminds you that not everybody is a jackwagon takes us to beautiful Connecticut, a lovely state just south of the border, and Shay Taylor, who was born at Yale Hospital in Connecticut. Now, after high school, despite graduating near the top of her class, Shay was back at that same hospital, Yale Hospital in Connecticut, as a janitor because, you see, her family needed the paycheck. But when her single mom got sick, everything changed for Shay. She became an advocate for her mom. She even called the hospital CEO directly because she used to clean his office and she felt she has an in with him because she had done that work before. And it turns out that advocating for her mom unlocked Shay's full potential. So she applied to medical school. She kept cleaning Yale Hospital by day and studying at night. And after she finished her degree, Shay was matched for her residency at, you guessed it, Yale Hospital. The same place she was born, the same place she had been cleaning for more than 10 years. Shay is now going back as a doctor.
I would have never known, starting at 18 as a janitor in the hospital, that I'll be sitting here as a doctor, going back to the same hospital that I was born at. I would never have imagined where I come from that this was even possible. Whatever that you can think or manifest that you want to do is possible.
Whatever you think that you can do, whatever you want to manifest, it is possible. Is it just me? Or does that story have a little bit of a Good Will Hunting vibe to it, right? Matt Damon's character in that movie, cleaning the classrooms, cleaning the hallways, and solving complex mathematical equations while he was at it because he just knows how to do that stuff. What a performance in that movie by Robin Williams, too, eh? Anyway, a little bit of a Good Will Hunting vibe as we share the story of Shay Taylor. Born at Yale Hospital, goes back to clean rooms and make sure things are spick and span at Yale Hospital. And then, upon graduating med school, becoming a doctor herself, she gets her residency at Yale Hospital. Little bit of a Good Will Hunting vibe, your daily reminder that not everybody is a jackwagon. And if you know somebody who is not, we love to hear those stories, local or beyond. By all means, drop me an email anytime, mike@570news.com. Let me know who you know that is not a jackwagon, and we will share their story on this show around 10:20. Every day around this time. I have to say around this time, because I'm not always perfect at getting it right on time. But come here for your daily dose of goodness, okay, in and around 10:20 every day on the show. I'm going to get you an update from the 570 News Center. And then in the next 30 minutes, wait until you hear who Talk Sports Waterloo Region has lined up for their next luncheon, which is just a few weeks away. And get ready for spring. I mean, it's practically here, right? And you'll feel it in Elmira this weekend. We'll tell you how. Coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. It is spring I feel as though I have to remind you of that because, let's be honest, it hasn't exactly been balmy outside. Yesterday, kind of nice when that sun came out at times in the afternoon. Seems like we've got a little bit of a brighter sky up here at the boardwalk so far this morning as well, which I will absolutely take. And despite the cooler than normal temperatures, Rosie and I have been enjoying our afternoon walks. I think she likes it out there. No, I know she likes it out there more when it's cooler as opposed to warmer. And so we can take much longer walks. But when we got home yesterday, it turned out, saw a neighbor who's often walking the block, an older lady in the neighborhood. And she said she's looking forward to the weather getting nicer so that she can go a little bit further than just around the block. We're going to get there, but I'll tell you what, if you needed the reminder, if you need the inspiration that this is indeed spring by calendar and otherwise, then look no further than this weekend's annual spring market in Elmira. It is presented by our friends at Joyful Vendors, and the founder of Joyful Vendors, Maxine Metzger, joins me on the phone this morning. Maxine, good morning.
Good spring morning, Mike.
Thank you. You said the magic words because it is spring, right, Maxine? It is.
It's going to be spring on Saturday in Elmira for sure, no matter what.
I love it. I love it. Okay, give me the important details, please, about when, where, and what's happening this Saturday in Elmira.
All right. Well, I'm happy to say that it is the 4th annual spring market in Elmira this Saturday, March 28th. Doors open at 10 a.m. and the event runs until 3. And we've got lots of vendors set up both inside and outside because it's going to be spring, remember. And out of those vendors, we've got 27 of them that are actually brand new that have never been vendors before at one of our Joyful Vendors Market events. So that's really exciting. The business is growing and more people are coming. And, lots of new things to see when you come and shop.
Why is it, do you suppose, what is it that's attracting these new businesses to the Joyful Vendors Market experience?
We love our vendors and we love to advertise our events. With my background in marketing, I do a lot of advertising on social media, and there's been a big boom of interest. And I love to support these local businesses, and I would have to say that I do a pretty good job at doing that. So I think they just want to get in and be a part of this type of event. And
I think it shows too, Maxine, the number of creatives, if you will, who are amongst us here in the region. I know this is all about supporting local, and clearly there are dozens and dozens of folks doing really interesting things.
There are. Every time I get a vendor application, it amazes me just to see the talent that we have in these local businesses and what they're doing. Their imagination or the things that they love to do, how they've been able to turn that into some type of a small business that they're running, whether it's their full-time gig or whether it's a side gig. It's amazing to see.
So along with the 27 new vendors participating this Saturday for the 4th annual spring market, what sorts of things will we find at the market this weekend, Maxine?
Okay, so there is home decor, there's sweets and treats, and we will actually have some Elmira Maple Syrup Festival cones. I know it's a couple weeks before the festival, but they will be there. We've got jewelry and fashion, greeting cards, baked goods, clothing, gifts, toys for kids, stuff for Mother's Day, Father's Day. The list goes on and on, Mike.
And I know, too, that this is your 4th annual market in Elmira, but Joyful Vendors Markets is expanding, and you've got more than one spring market this year.
We do. We've been asked to expand, and we are coming to Baden. So we have a market in Elmira this coming weekend, but then we go to Baden the weekend of May 8th and 9th. So we've got a Friday night market, Friday Glows, and a Saturday market called Saturday Blooms, and that is just in time for Mother's Day, which will then be the Sunday after on May 10th.
Couldn't be timed better for that spring market, the Foundry Spring Market in Baden. And again, the 4th annual spring market in Elmira this Saturday, 10 until 3 at Gale Presbyterian Church. Indoor and outdoor food available as well, some snacks, some beverages. Maxine, what was the inspiration for you to get started with Joyful Vendors?
I just love supporting local. I love shopping local. And with more things not crossing the border, more people not crossing the border to shop, why not support our local businesses here? So that's where it all started. Years ago, just doing a few gift baskets and stuff like that, supporting local vendors to put those items into a gift basket. And it's grown into a market now that is featuring new vendors almost all the time, or a handful of new vendors all the time, as I believe that the desire is there for us to all shop local, and people to have a small business is also a huge factor as to why this has been so successful. There are so many creatives within the region, and for me to support them and have a place where everybody can come together, again, it's that sense of community, the sense of family, supporting local. It truly is, it's kind of like a homecoming. Everybody comes together, and this is the first event of the year for a lot of people, so it truly is setting the stage for a successful year to support local and to support these creators.
And you do run these seasonally. And now that you're into your 4th annual spring market, expanding into Baden, I know we've got the Christmas bazaars, everything that happens throughout the calendar all year round. I think it really does speak to that appetite that we have here to shop and support local.
I would have to agree.
Maxine, really appreciate your time on the show this morning. Best of luck this weekend. I know it'll be another great market experience, and thanks for joining the show this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Mike. And come on out Saturday, as well as check things out in Baden in May.
Oh, remind me, please, the website, just so folks can go there and keep track of things.
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit the website at joyfulvendorsmarket.com. All of our vendors for Saturday and the Foundry Spring Market are there as well, so you can see who's all going to be there and check out whose booths you want to shop from. So joyfulvendorsmarket.com.
Perfect. Maxine, thanks again for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Maxine Metzger is the founder of Joyful Vendors. We really do want to shop and support local. I love that about the local business that has blossomed because of that philosophy and how you support it each and every time it shows up. The 4th annual spring market is happening this Saturday, 10 until 3 at Gale Presbyterian Church in Elmira. 27 new vendors this time around. You'll have some indoor vendors, some outdoor vendors, snacks and beverages will be there. It's fun for everybody. And wouldn't you know, the expansion into Wilmot Township now, from Woolwich into Wilmot, and the first Foundry Spring Market in Baden on May 8th and 9th. Details for all of this can be found at joyfulvendorsmarket.com. Just make sure I've got that absolutely correct for you. Yes, joyfulvendorsmarket.com. Check out the vendors, check out the schedule. It's the first of the season for these markets as the 4th annual spring market happens on Saturday in Elmira, 10 until 3 at Gale Presbyterian Church. A quick break. When we come back, I'm excited for this one. Let's Talk Sports Waterloo Region is ready for its next luncheon. And does it have some speakers for you to enjoy? We'll tell you who they are coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Well, we've got two of Waterloo Region's finest in studio with me, and I'm not just saying that because they're in studio. Love these guys, love what they do, and I'm so excited to talk about the 11th luncheon coming up for Let's Talk Sports Waterloo Region. Founding members Larry Lynch and John Thompson in studio with me this morning. Larry, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks so much for having us.
It's absolutely a pleasure. I just got to see you a couple weeks ago when you had the road to the OHL playoffs with UC Ahokas and Mike McKenzie at your most recent luncheon. And what a great turnout. It really is.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
You know, and you know what, from that, we start a spin-off thing, just so we have a smaller group on different subjects. But, what people, they love Rangers. So if we sell it every time we have the Rangers.
Of course. And it's really interesting to get Jussi Ahokas in a much more relaxed environment. Guy's got a lot to say. He's got a great sense of humor. A lot of fun to listen to.
I found it really humorous when he made the comment about the Team Canada game against Finland when there was a penalty.
Yeah.
I thought of this very same thing. That's a dive.
A little bit of a soft call on that one. John Thompson, good morning to you. I've waited too long.
No problem. Thanks, Mike. Glad we have an opportunity to share about our luncheon on April 14th.
Yeah, and you've got another terrific lineup. One of my all-time favorite people that I've met through the game of hockey and the Ontario Hockey League in Sherry Basson. But I'll let you give us the details of the 11th luncheon coming up April the 14th.
Well, if I provided everything in Sherry's little Wikipedia thing here, be no time for Larry, so we got it. But I do have to refer to notes because I want to get it right. So we all know Sherry as a man of influence for many years, several decades in the Ontario Hockey League, the Canadian Hockey League, and even in the National Hockey League with the Quebec team at one point in time. But here's a little thing. Just off Wikipedia, Sherry Basson completed 3 degrees, a PhD in hospital pharmacy, a master's in hospital administration, and a Juris Doctor. He worked with the Legal Division of Canada's Food and Drug Directorate in Toronto and as a pharmacist in a hospital, and he taught for 25 years at Durham College in those disciplines. That's not going to excite anybody who wants to come to our Let's Talk Sports luncheon, but I find that amazing. What a career before he really got involved in hockey. And, of course, he's a hockey executive for about 35 years in the Ontario Hockey League. He's been taking teams to 6 Memorial Cups. He was twice named OHL Executive of the Year. He chose in the draft when Wayne Gretzky was available to not choose Wayne Gretzky when he was available. So that might be a little topic when we have Sherry in town. He was interim commissioner of the Ontario Major Junior Hockey League, the predecessor of the OHL. And that was until Dave Branch was hired way back, 40 years ago, almost 50 years ago, I guess. He was involved with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. I'm just picking things out here. He was general manager of the national team in 1982, which I think was the first time the team was put together under those circumstances. Manager of the Sault Ste. Marie, part owner and then full owner of the Erie Otters. A relationship with lots of NHLers, including some guy named Connor McDavid. So there's lots of stuff there that we're going to talk about. And I could go on, but I'm not going to go on. So our event is Tuesday, April 14th at the Navy Club. We're glad to be back there. Domino's going to be providing the good stuff for, and we'll have refreshments there as well. And we've got 2 speakers. And Larry and I heard Sherry, 6-8 weeks ago. I guess we went to Toronto to the Hockey Alumni Luncheon. And I was thinking today, who does Sherry remind me of? And is it kind of a combination of Mel Brooks or Mel Lastman, or maybe I had this Mel thing on my mind, I don't know. But I think moderator Gary's going to need 2 questions. Hi, how are you doing? And tell me more, and that'll be about all we need to get Sherry rolling. So look forward to that.
The man can certainly spin a yarn. There's no question about it. And I had the chance to talk to him once about that decision that he made famously to not draft Wayne Gretzky. And Sherry's got this raspy voice that is unmistakable. He says, Mike, let me tell you, the media, it's a good thing we got gun control laws in Canada because they wanted to shoot me. But he chose Tom Webster instead because he thought that's going to build his Oshawa Generals team at the time. And Gretzky was going to be here and gone in a minute, which he was. But still, I think when you have the chance to draft Wayne Gretzky, Larry, you draft Wayne Gretzky, don't you?
I hate to interrupt, but it was Tom McCarthy.
Tom McCarthy, sorry. Yeah, I said Webster, didn't I? Yes. Tom McCarthy, indeed. That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, there are some strange things happening in hockey. Because I totally agree with you with drafting a Wayne Gretzky, but it takes me back to the Olympics when they didn't use him in a shootout.
Oh,
either.
my gosh.
So like, I don't know who makes those decisions, but Wayne's been in some pretty strange ones.
He sure has been. And of course, Sherry Basson, you mentioned Sault Ste. Marie. the architect of that only Greyhounds Memorial Cup championship. And I'm pretty sure Sherry was with the Oshawa Generals team that beat the Rangers in 1990 in the Memorial Cup, didn't he?
Timing sounds right.
I think in around there. So we should hold that against him, but we know he's going to have some great stories. And along with Sherry, Larry, we're also going to have Mr. Joe Birch, the Chief Operating Officer of our Kitchener Rangers.
Joe Birch is, you know what, until you start looking at what he has done in life and his preparation for the job that he has now. I mean, he's a Chief Operating Officer, governor, and but you know what? He started off in life, born in Windsor, moved to Corunna, and spent, when he was 2, I guess, which makes me wonder about Corunna. Because they produced Glenn, a Masters champion. They produced the Hunter boys in London. They just build success from Corunna. And I think there's a major league coach there from there too.
Bobby Thompson.
Bobby Thompson, yeah. Or Rob Thompson.
Thompson. Yeah.
But Joe Birch started off in life wanting to be a school teacher. Which is hard to believe. He has a degree from Western in sociology. And the only reason why he didn't pursue that is because he didn't get into teachers college, which is hard to believe. But the one thing about Joe Birch is it's all about preparation for him. He got a degree in from Western. He's continued, and it's a lifelong passion, as education. And he's gone on and taken, courses, certification programs in Cornell, Columbia, and Northwest University, building his repertoire, preparing himself for something bigger. He actually did apply for a Rangers job as a head coach and didn't get it. But you know what? That's better for us in the big picture because he's got a couple concepts about life, and he understands that, life is not about just what young kids want. They want everything to happen, just like that. But he understands that what's important is control what you can control. Get all the education you can and network. That's his route to success. And he's done every one of those things, and we're the better for it because he is one smart businessman now, and he's built a champion with a great team around him.
He certainly has that. He's an excellent executive, and hopefully Gary can draw the story out of Joe Birch, how he found out from David Branch, the former OHL commissioner, that Joe was going to be brought in as the fixer for the Flint Firebirds when they were having some trouble about a decade ago. And it's a fun story, like you'll get so many fun stories from Sherry Basson as well. Tuesday, April the 14th, you've mentioned, John, at the Navy Club. That's on Weber Street in Waterloo, not far, across the street basically from Glenbriar Home Hardware. How can people get involved? How can they get a ticket?
Okay, people have been there before. We already sent out emails. And if you've been to one of our events, we're saving your seats until this Friday, and then we'll open it to the public. If it's okay if I can share a phone number, that would be the easiest way.
Absolutely.
519-884-4050. You might get my wife Brenda's voice on it, but it's me. That's John Thompson, and be glad to reserve a seat or two for you. Also, we reserve seats in tables of 4, 6, 8, whatever we want. People have fun when they're there, and with Gary Doyle serving as moderator, we know that it's more than just a prepared speech that's going to come from a couple of guys we know love hockey and are influential in hockey. So it's hard to believe, Hawk, we started this. This is number 11. We started 2 years ago. UC was our first guest. He was back again a month or two ago, and we've sort of come full cycle. But we're glad to have Joe, of course, and we're really glad to have Sherry. So
the funny thing with Sherry is that when John mentioned we went to an event in Toronto that he was at, typical Sherry, he's walking around the room with a pencil and paper getting everybody's phone number because he had to contact somebody else somewhere along the line.
Sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's fantastic.
Like he's mid-80s.
He's as sharp as a tack. Just a joy.
I sent him an invite after. I said, remember we talked, and told him who I was and that, and here's what we'd like you to come down. And I think he got back to me in less than 24 hours on a phone call. I was at Good Life just finishing a little bit of playing squash, and my phone rings, and it was Sherry Basson less than 24 hours later. So I like that in a man.
Absolutely. He's a man of his word. He's got many words and stories to share. It is the Let's Talk Sports Waterloo Region Luncheon, Tuesday, April the 14th at the KW Navy Club. 519-884-4050, 4050. 519-884-4050. And we might be able to find you a seat at the 11th annual, or the 11th of the luncheons that started just a couple of years ago. John Thompson, Larry Lynch in studio with me. Gentlemen, keep up the great work. What an all-star roster for this next luncheon, and thanks for being here.
Good. Thanks so much, Mike.
Yep. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The Man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
It is that time, baseball fans. We were talking in the last half hour about spring. It's actually here, right? By the calendar, not necessarily by the weather. Spring training, well, that's done now because we are getting set for the opening day of another Toronto Blue Jays season. And I know many of you have been anxious for this moment. You're wondering why we didn't start this during spring training. I'm sorry. Maybe next year. This guy, listen, Blue Jay Hunter's a busy guy, okay? We're lucky to lock him in for 1/2 hour every week on the show. And starting today, we go right through the season doing this. Remember, our phone lines are open. If you've got questions to ask, the one and only Blue Jay Hunter, who joins us Wednesday mornings, 11 a.m. Good morning,
Hello.
Ian Hunter.
Yes, thanks for having me. The shortest Blue Jays off season in recent memory, right? We were going all the way up until November, like just after Halloween. So, yeah, I guess coming in a little late. I apologize, but yeah, we'll be here till the very end of the season, no matter how deep in the playoffs the Blue Jays go this year.
Thank you for making the time on a weekly basis for these chats, because we love our Blue Jays baseball. We love when the team is winning. And you mentioned shortest off season in a long time. I remember, so I already put this in my calendar until the end of October.
Oh,
so,
okay.
That's the anticipation.
Right.
We go until the season's done.
Sure.
Why don't we just start there? Because what I feel is the biggest difference, Ian, this year compared to last year and many years before, is the Blue Jays are coming in with that old weight of expectation on their shoulders.
Yeah, and also a little bit of stability as well. I would say going into spring training last year, there was a lot of big looming questions hanging over the Jays. Like they were just coming off a last place finish in the division. Both Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette were becoming potential free agents. Uncertain status of the front office with Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins and John Schneider, the coach. So there was a lot of potential for that year to go sideways. And now all of a sudden this year, you go to the World Series and now it's basically playoffs or bust for this team. And I'll give them credit. The Blue Jays had a really aggressive offseason. They were big spenders in free agency by getting guys like Dylan Cease, Tyler Rogers, Kazuma Okamoto, and whatnot. So, yeah, all of a sudden it's gone from, maybe they'll be a wild card team, which I think we talked about last year, to that's the bare minimum for the Blue Jays this year. I think being a wild card team, winning a division, those are two tentpole things that this franchise needs to do. And now all of a sudden it's not, if X, Y, and Z goes right, maybe they'll have a chance. Those expectations are front and center right out of the gate. It's all of a sudden the Jays are in Yankees territory where they're expected to be perennial contenders now and not just to fluke their way into it.
Atkins and Schneider announced this week contract extensions for both, and I think this speaks to the stability that this team has that you were just talking about.
Yeah, so we've got John Schneider is extended. He'll be with the Jays. Again, this is all pending that they finish their contract until the end of 2028. Ross Atkins has been extended for 5 more years until 2031. Mark Shapiro, the team president, was extended to the year 2030. So, yeah, it's wild. I mean, time flies. We're in, I think, year 10 now of this current regime of Atkins and Shapiro. I believe if Ross Atkins sticks around, he'll be with the organization for 15 years, which is second only to Pat Gillick. So, I mean, yeah, it's crazy how time flies, and funny how kind of public perception suddenly changes year over year. I think last year we spoke many times about how this front office was potentially on the hot seat if the Jays had a bad year. And now all of a sudden going to the World Series, winning a division, that's locked in this front office for the foreseeable future. So I think if you're a Jays fan, this is a great time to hop on board because, like I said last year, things could have really gone bad in a hurry. But the Vladdy's extension, the success of the regular season, going that deep into the playoffs, it's bought in a lot of goodwill for this front office.
We know that Santander is injured again. We're not sure when we're going to see him. We know that Bichette is gone. So we didn't really have Santander last season. Probably doesn't matter. Bichette, though he wasn't hitting for power necessarily, was hitting the ball very well. You mentioned Okamoto. Tell me more about Kazuma Okamoto and how the Blue Jays are going to be making up for Bichette's lost bat.
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to be a lot of... They're expecting more contributions for a bunch of guys. Okamoto is kind of a big wild card, right? Like he's coming over from Japan. The Jays typically have not signed a lot of Japanese players. I believe Munenori Kawasaki was the last one about 10 years ago. So it's such an X factor because he's coming over to the major leagues. Will he be able to make the adjustment? So I think they're expecting some power there. He's a bad on-ball guy. He does get on base quite a bit when he was playing in Japan last year. And I think they're expecting more out of guys like Dalton Varsho, who, when he was healthy last year, his home run to at bat ratio was off the charts. And he's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, so you figure he's extra motivated. And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I would say, you know, he was a beast in the playoffs and even in the World Baseball Classic, but he kind of had an okay regular season. It wasn't nothing to write home about. So I think that's probably where you're going to get the surplus of offense. It's guys like Vladdy kicking in a little bit more, Dalton Varsho, potentially Addison Barger as well. He was someone who didn't even start the year with the Jays. He started in Buffalo AAA last year. So you hope kind of cumulatively the extra offense you get is going to be what, you know, the Bo Bichette going out the door, what he left on the table last year.
All right, let's go to the phones because, as I said, phone lines are open. I know you are as excited about the season as Ian and I. Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Ian. Mike, how about them Blue Jays? Let's go, Blue Jays.
It's about time, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
What's your question?
We got Mad Max back. We got some passion on the team. You hear that, Maple Leafs? A little passion might go a long way, you know.
Funny how that works. You got a question for us, Paul?
No, I just wanted to comment. Just looking forward to the season and just can't wait for Friday night. That's all.
We hear you, Paul, and we feel the same. Because Paul brought up Mad Max, let's talk a little bit about Scherzer, because I think he's in the rotation at spot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 currently, isn't he?
Yeah, it's wild what happened in the last few months to the starting rotation. I think going into spring training, they had probably about 8 or 9 guys on the depth chart. And then the first day of spring training, John Schneider says, Bowden Francis is having major surgery, so he's out. Shane Bieber is not throwing yet. He's going to be on a ramp-up program. Then we learn about Jose Barrios suffering he has a stress fracture in his arm, which he's going to try and pitch through, but he's starting the season on the IL. And then Trey Savage, last week we learned, has a shoulder impingement, so he's going to start the season on the IL. All of a sudden, it made sense why the Jays went out and got Max Scherzer. It was to build upon that starting pitching depth. And yeah, now he's like probably going to be the number 3 guy, I would say, in this rotation behind Kevin Gausman and Dylan Cease. You know, it was an up and down year for Scherzer. I think he got 3 innings out of his first start at the beginning there in March, and he was down for several months, and then he just got lit up in the first inning. It seemed like every single start he had, but give him credit. He delivered in the playoffs, right? And it seems like he's completely healthy. He's had really good numbers in spring training. So I would say it could be a promising year. Like the dude's 41 years old, same age as me. And, I think I don't know if he's going to be like an integral cog in the starting rotation, but I think just to have him healthy and potentially make, 25 starts and pick up maybe 120, 130 innings, I think that's going to be huge. I don't think expectations are high, but all of a sudden that signing looks really, really important to this team.
Same age as you. How's your arm, Huntsy?
Geez, I think my 12-year-old son could probably throw further than I can, so I'm not getting called up anytime soon.
Let's stay on the phones. We know Lisa's a big Blue Jays fan. Good morning, Lisa.
I am. Go Jays, go.
You betcha.
And I think the secret to their team last year was that they had so much depth through the whole rotation. Scherzer's a fun guy. It's nice to see him back to play. I'm a little concerned about Trey Savage because he's another young, really gifted player, and we were kind of wondering if they have him starting the year on the IL just to get him into the rotation, but not put pressure on him because of how well he did last season. I do have a question about. I'm a little bitter about a couple things that happened at the end of last year, and I'm wondering about the rule of the stuck ball, what exactly that is, because that ball that was sitting right on the ground there that they just left sitting there and didn't even try to play, it kind of affected how the end of our season went. And do you just not have to touch it if it looks like it's stuck? Because what if it's not stuck? What if it's just sitting there and it didn't bounce?
Yeah. First, I want to say a bunch of Jays fans just had PTSD from games, that series that shall not be mentioned. But yeah, Lisa. So from what I recall, the rule is like if a fielder touches it right away, then the ball's in play. And in a case like that, runner would have probably scored. No, Addison Barger's probably coming around on that. But when the fielder puts their arms up, it's up to the umpire to declare whether it's a stuck ball. And I believe that's what the Dodgers outfielder did. He just kind of stood there for a second, threw his hands up, and then the umpire declared, I believe it was only 2 bases. So that put Barger at second base rather than scoring. So
don't they go back and they, do some measurements or check to make sure it's actually stuck? Because that seems like that was just, I just can't touch it. And seemed a little Gen Z to me, sorry.
Yeah, and it's such a fluky play too, right? Like I think a bunch of people tried to kind of replicate that. And the fact that the ball, you just had to hit it at the perfect angle, at the perfect speed for it to get stuck. It's just, one of 1,000 things that could have gone differently for the Blue Jays, and maybe we're having a different conversation this year. But
right.
Just
but
one.
I think they should have a good season this year. I mean, last year was a roller coaster ride, and I still think it ended really well for them, considering. But would have been nice to see them bring home the pennant, but maybe this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the one thing a lot of people look back on is, what didn't happen, right? Like they were 2 outs away in the 9th of Game 7. They were inches away from winning in the 9th, but they took it all the way to Game 7. They took the Dodgers all the way to Game 7.
Exactly.
I didn't foresee that on opening day last year. I thought, if anything, maybe if things go right, they're a wild card team. Maybe they win a playoff series, but they took out the Yankees, which arguably was kind of it felt like a giant win in itself, and they came back from the dead in the ALCS and won that over the Mariners and took the Dodgers to Game 7. So there's a lot to be celebrated, but I think that means expectations for this year are that much higher, right?
Blue Jay Hunter is back. Ian Hunter joins us every Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. here on the show to talk Blue Jays baseball. Phone lines always open. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Every Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. throughout the Blue Jays season, which officially launches Friday. We're bringing back baseball, baby. Ian Hunter, our Blue Jay Hunter, will join us on the show to talk about these Blue Jays. Ian and I, during that commercial break, were just reliving the box score from World Series Game 7, talking about how short the offseason was. You go back to spring training 2025 in February of last year, and the World Series takes us to November. So you've basically had 3 months off before spring training opens again, and here we are getting ready for opening day. We talked about replacing Bo Bichette's bat, Ian. What does our middle infield look like now this year?
Right, so it's kind of a mirror of what we saw in the playoffs. Andres Jimenez, who he suffered a few injuries last year, but he predominantly played second base. He's sliding over to shortstop. Arguably, he basically was the Blue Jays' best option defensively at that position. So he did chip in a few important home runs in the playoffs last year, but I think for the most part, you're not expecting a ton of offense from him. Where he's going to be able to contribute is with his glove at a really premium position at shortstop. And then you've got Ernie Clement. Like, give him credit. He was a grinder last year. He played a ton of spots on the diamond. Wherever he was never a defensive liability. So he's going into this year as probably the starting second baseman for this team. So that's what you can look forward to up the middle. I'm still getting used to this Blue Jays team without Bo Bichette. It is a bit weird because he has been with the organization for the last 9 years. Again, it's like hearing a Blue Jays game without Buck Martinez behind the mic.
Great point.
It's going to take some getting used to, just because a guy like Bichette and a broadcaster like Martinez were part of the furniture here. But for the most part, everyone else, like, you've still got Kirk behind the plate, Vladdy at first. The outfield, for the most part, is basically the same. You've got Okamoto at third base. And the starting rotation, I would say, is the biggest overhaul when you're adding a guy with ace potential like Dylan Cease. And they brought in Cody Ponce, who hasn't pitched in the major since 2021. He's been over in Korea and Japan, pitching over there, and then bringing back Max Scherzer. It's definitely a much different look. The Chris Bassett is probably the other biggest departure from the rotation, but I would say Max Scherzer kind of slides into that spot. So some different faces, some guys that's going to take a little getting used to not seeing, but for the most part, it's kind of the nucleus of this team is very similar to last year.
Final thought. We talked about the rotation as it's coming into the season, seems a little banged up. I'm not overly worried, but my glass half empty look at this team, Ian, is, I mean, we saw George Springer have a career year. We saw Ernie Clement hit everything that came near the plate. Varsho was crashing dingers. Can we reasonably expect a repeat performance from those guys? Because I worry a little bit offensively because of that.
Yeah, I think, George Springer being a year older, I think he's going into his age 36 season. Are we going to expect him to hit 30-plus home runs again? I like most of the projections are saying he's not going to. He's going to take a bit of a step backwards, and I don't think there's many people who are expecting him to repeat what he did last year, because he rediscovered the fountain of youth, right? Like, I kind of figured Springer was a guy who might get designated for assignment just because he had such a poor year in 2024, and his spring training last year, his results were really poor. But I think there's a lot of promising signs with a guy like Vlad, someone who you've got locked up for the next 14 years. He hit everything in the playoffs last year. He was electric in the World Baseball Classic, arguably the best hitter of that tournament. So you're hoping he kind of carries that momentum into the regular season, because we've seen it many times, right? Like, he has MVP potential. I think he may be a candidate to win MVP this year if he can put it all together. He certainly has the talent. It's just been very streaky at times. So I think if you're going to bet on someone, I would say someone like Vlad as opposed to a Springer. I think if Springer chips in 25 home runs or so, I think that's maybe a more reasonable expectation rather than him carrying the load on offense this year.
We have only just begun. I'll see you next Wednesday.
Yeah, next week. Sounds good.
Blue Jays, who are we opening against?
Against the Athletics.
There you go.
Not the Oakland Athletics.
Correct.
Just the Athletics.
That's on Friday. Ian Hunter, our Blue Jay Hunter, joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 right here on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio. Something pretty remarkable is happening in Kitchener on Saturday. The KW Titans will host Ontario's first ever orange jersey basketball game. It's going to happen on Saturday when the Titans take on the Windsor Express. It's in partnership with the Orange Shirt Society and the Orange Jersey Project. And we are, not only will this next guest on our show be the guest at the game at the Memorial Auditorium on Saturday, but she is with us here this morning. Phyllis Webstad, founder and ambassador of the Orange Shirt Society. Phyllis, good morning. Thank you for joining the show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
It is truly a pleasure. Can you share with us how the Orange Shirt Society came to be?
I told my story in 2013 of how I lived with my grandmother until I was 10, and then I lived with my aunt. But when I turned 6 in time for school, my grandmother took me to town to Williams Lake in BC and for something new to wear for school, and I chose a shiny orange shirt. When I got to the residential school, my shirt was taken away, and I never did wear it again. That's the story that I told when the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, came to Williams Lake, and it became Orange Shirt Day, Every Child Matters. The first was in 2013, and then in 2021, it's also now known as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. But in 2015, we incorporated as a nonprofit society, so the Orange Shirt Society. And in 2019, we opened our first office in Williams Lake, and I started doing this work paid full-time since April of 2019. So we're going on 7 years now. So we're a fledgling organization, so to speak, and our we were created in response to a video by the late Murray Sinclair, who headed the TRC, to keep the conversation happening after the TRC wrapped up. And as we know, that was June of 2015, the final report, the 94 calls to action. Everything we do at the society is to keep the conversation happening, keep the history of Canada, of the Indian residential schools on the radar of people, to educate people and to make sure it never happens again.
Given that the orange shirt for you, Phyllis, I mean, that would have been a traumatic incident. You go shopping with your grandmother, this is the shirt you choose, and all of a sudden it is literally stripped away from you. What are your emotions? What goes through your mind when you see the sea of orange that we wear annually?
Mm-hmm. It's overwhelming, very emotional, surreal. It's divinely guided, that's for sure. The ancestors and the children that have gone on are definitely behind this, and there is a spiritual side to Orange Shirt Day, and I told that story in my upcoming memoir that's to be released in August. It's called Wa'echna Elia, which is a word for we are still here. And it's unbelievable. I could never imagine that it would be what it is today. And there's a story about how the Orange Jersey Project started. My son, my only child, heads up the Orange Jersey project or program. And we have an ambassador here in Ontario that actually has an ancestry DNA match to my grandmother, we found, which is quite amazing. So my grandmother has Haudenosaunee ancestry that we're finding out through digging. But yeah, so it's amazing to have, because the Orange Jersey Project, we're renaming it to program, I think it, and it started with hockey and it's gone into lacrosse, but the idea is to teach the history through sport, and that's what we're endeavoring to do. And it's amazing that we're going to be having this game on Saturday. I got to meet some of the players yesterday, and I admitted to them that I know very little about basketball. But the one said when the basket goes in the net and it's them doing it, that's when I clap. So I got that.
It's a good group, too. I'm sure they're more than happy to help you learn the game a little bit better. Why, Phyllis, is it important to you to tell your story? I mean, it must be so difficult to tell, but why is it so important for you to tell it?
It's for whatever reason I was chosen to do this. I think it's because I'm a lot younger. I can do it for many more years to come. Whereas I went for 1 year. My 1 year at the residential school was a walk in the park compared to my grandmother, who went for 10 years, all of her 10 children, including my mother, who also went for 10 years, that I can have the energy and the stamina to tell my story. They have way more trauma than I do. I went for 1 year, and I have trauma from that, but I couldn't imagine having 10 years and having the energy to do what I do today. And it's important that truth be told. Truth comes before reconciliation, and the truth is not yet fully told. And by telling my story, other survivors have said that they because hearing me gave them that they could also tell more about their story, because a lot of survivors go to their grave without telling their story because it's just too traumatic for them. So it's a little bit of healing for survivors, and it's educating Canadians about what happened to us.
Truth comes before reconciliation, you just said, and that's, I'm sure, why we have the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and you mentioned Murray Sinclair earlier. But if we have not yet finished telling the whole truth, how, Phyllis, do we get to reconciliation? What does that journey still look like?
It took, and this is Murray Sinclair, late Murray Sinclair again, it took 150 years to knock everything down for Indigenous people, and it's going to take that long to build it back up again, because we're relearning language, culture, what it means to be a grandmother, how to parent, that was taken away, and just relearning medicines, relearning dances, and like what our traditional dress was, and having coming of age ceremonies, and all those kinds of things we're relearning again. But the for reconciliation to happen, there needs to be respect. There needs to be respect both ways. Indigenous need to respect non-Indigenous, non-Indigenous need to respect Indigenous. And there's a lot of hard feelings at this point and a lot of denial that it wasn't as bad as it was, or that there aren't any missing children in the grounds at the former schools. And so there's a lot of discussion that need to be had together, and to have an understanding of just discussion and talking. And I had a point, but I forgot it.
I have no doubt that those Titans are going to give you lots of reasons to cheer when you're here on Saturday, and we look forward to hosting you in our community. Phyllis, thank you very much for joining the show this morning.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Phyllis Webstad, the founder and ambassador with the Orange Shirt Society. Saturday marks a pretty significant day in the region, the first ever in Ontario orange jersey basketball game. And our KW Titans are hosting it when they take on the Windsor Express on Saturday. The orange jersey game. Just so you know, even before Saturday's game, the Titans are on the court at home, the Memorial Auditorium, tomorrow night against the Kokomo Bobcats. And then Saturday versus Windsor, the orange jersey game. What a privilege to get Phyllis Webstad, the founder and ambassador of the Orange Shirt Society, on our show today. She will be present among the guests and dignitaries at that game at the Memorial Auditorium on Saturday, the Orange Jersey Day for the KW Titans. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the role of an air traffic controller and how that overworked individual may have played a key role in a fatal crash at LaGuardia Airport in New York. We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
The mistake they made with the truck is it's unbelievable. When I saw the front of the plane, I was pretty sure that they didn't make it. And both pilots, I think they saved us because we were in a high speed on the aircraft, and they did the right thing, like by braking quickly, and probably saved most of people in this plane.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That was the voice of Clement Lelievre, who was a passenger on that Air Canada flight, landing at LaGuardia Airport when the unthinkable, almost unfathomable happened. And of course, there was that collision with a fire truck that was crossing the runway. Several passengers were injured, but none died. The two pilots, however, one a recent grad of Seneca College in Toronto, did perish in that collision with the fire truck. And we continue to peel back the layers of the story. We were expecting to have John Graddick on the show with us today, a faculty lecturer and academic programs coordinator at McGill University and an aviation expert who is a go-to in these situations, but we were unable to connect with him. I'm hoping that the message we left will reach him in time and we'll still get a chance to talk, because the latest information has centered around air traffic controllers, their role in all of this, and how difficult that role is. It is, I couldn't even imagine at the best of times being an air traffic controller, but now that the job itself is in the spotlight, it just goes without saying the magnitude of responsibility that they have on their shoulders. As Mr. Graddick joins the program this morning. Good morning, John.
Good morning, sir. Sorry for being a little late. No. I've been chased down by air traffic controllers.
I'm not surprised in the least, and we do appreciate the time that you've been able to carve out for us on the show. Let's talk about air traffic controllers specifically, John, because obviously under the microscope, given what happened at LaGuardia, The role of an air traffic controller, I can't even imagine the level of responsibility they have and the stress they must be under.
Yeah, that's why they get paid the big bucks too. There's a great salary for these guys. They in fact 150 up to 200K a year. But for that for that paycheck, you are called upon to make some life and death decisions, day in, day out, hour by hour, minute by minute. And you've got to do the job, and you got to do it conscientiously, and you have to be very aware of the surroundings that you're operating in, and you have to be aware of what's going on around you and make decisions that will, impact, the safe movement of aircraft and ground equipment. So it's a great job. And pays well, but, not everybody's cut out to be a controller.
And certainly one of the things that we've been hearing is around the workload that the existing controllers have, because we're having a heck of a time recruiting new ones.
Yeah, we are. I don't, the question is, NAVCAN in Canada is very aggressive. If you look at the NAVCAN website, and they run, all kinds of ads in social media. So they're actively recruiting. They probably have about between NAVCAN and CAE, which is a contractor they're using for this training, I'd say there are somewhere around 600 people in class as we speak. And so they are actively recruiting. They are actively putting people in class. And but the problem is that training cycle takes 2.5 years. So we won't see these guys we're recruiting today on the job, doing air traffic control work, either at flight service centers or at air traffic control until 2028, 2029.
As we continue to peel back the layers of what happened on the weekend at LaGuardia, what are your thoughts on that crash as of today, John?
Oh man, good question. And that basically stirs up a lot of emotions. When I saw when I heard about the crash and we saw the pictures, you're saying, oh my God, we lost 2 crew members on that one. But when you see the video, that further exacerbated the problem in terms of emotional stability. and I had a hard time sleeping Monday night and Tuesday night. It's still there. I told my wife, I said, I think I'm suffering from PTSD just talking about it, because, it is gut wrenching. And you see that, life and death decisions, in 6 seconds. And so, you land an airplane, you're flying the airplane, you're doing what you love, and all of a sudden, in front, you're coming down the runway at 140 kilometers an hour, and then you see this fire truck, right in the middle of your windscreen, and there's nothing you can do. You can't stop. It's raining. There's little traction, and you're going to hit it, and you're going to probably die. And you've got to do whatever you can to basically protect your passengers, and that's what these 2 guys did.
Yeah, we heard from one of those passengers just as we began this segment, John, who said he thinks it's the hard braking that the pilots did that, obviously cost them their lives, but saved the passengers on board.
Yeah, they tried to they tried to steer the airplane away from you see there was some movement, some fishtailing on the airplane. Whether that was loss of traction or whether that was deliberate movement, I don't know. We'll find out when the investigators finish their work. But, both the vehicle and the airplane, recognized that there was a collision going on. They both tried to avoid it, but unfortunately it didn't happen. It happened so quickly that, luckily we've all 72 passengers and the flight attendant basically, got out of there safely, which is a miracle in itself. But, it was gut-wrenching to see for sure.
No question about it. What should we expect, John, in the days and weeks ahead as this investigation unfolds?
Oh, I think you're going to... It's starting already. You listen to the conversations going out with the NTSB and the Secretary of Transportation in the U.S. making all of these pronouncements and all of these findings. It's to me, it's counter to what it is that we should be letting the investigators do. This is as the NTSB said correctly yesterday, there are many things that went wrong in this event. We have, what I call the Swiss cheese model, where we have different layers of Swiss cheese and we try to protect the holes and cover all the holes that we have in our slices of Swiss cheese. And that's the airline, safety management culture that we have. We are the safest mode of transportation on the globe, bar none. And we do that because we have a very, very rigorous safety system in place. But something failed on Sunday night, and we don't know what it is. And for the NTSB to come up within 24 hours of the incident and say, well, we should have had transponders on the trucks. The transponder would not have solved the problem. The transponders, didn't make the decision to tell the truck to basically cross the runway. That was a human being that made that decision, and a transponder would not have helped. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now they're playing to the media, they're playing to the Secretary of Transportation, in my view, to kind of give me some quick fixes, because this is not going to be an easy thing to address.
John, really appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. Bye now. John Graddick is a faculty lecturer and academic programs coordinator at McGill University, aviation expert, and so much still to be learned, and so much has already come out. Maybe we can talk more about that as we open the phone lines for Talkback after this update from the 570 News Center. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
It is your daily opportunity to do the opposite of that. It's not don't talk back. It is talk back. Your Talkback Hour. Phone lines open at 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. You've got thoughts on something we talked about on the show earlier today, including government misspending. There was a lot of conversation about that. We got ready for a new Blue Jays season. We just had a conversation about that terrible plane crash of an Air Canada jet into a fire truck at LaGuardia Airport, what we've been learning in the days since and what we will learn in the weeks ahead, or something entirely different. If it's on your mind and you want to share it, this is the place to do that. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Kyle is with us. Good afternoon, Kyle.
First of all, go Jays, go, buddy. New season. I'm all excited.
It is exciting, isn't it?
It is. The second thing is the LaGuardia crash that happened. It is just an awful on all sides. You got to put your, the pilots and passengers and the air traffic controller. What he didn't tell you is how hard of a job it is when these people go to school. Only 10 to 15% of those people that will go to ATC school will actually graduate. That's how hard of a job it is and how stressful it is if you even continue to go that far. But it's, like I said, those pilots were heroes. It'd be very interesting to see what the NTSB says on it by the time they do the whole investigation, what the flight data recorder shows, what the cockpit voice recorder shows, and what improvements we could make in the aviation industry for that. I mean, you go back even when I went to school for flying back in 2007, 2008, they were saying that there's going to be a shortage of pilots and air traffic controllers in the next 10 years. So the fact that here we are, 15, 20 years later, it's still showing that, or 10 years later, it's still mind-boggling that they still haven't caught up to this. So that's my only frustration about it. They knew about, the shortage of this for how long now, and they still got these guys. Like LaGuardia is one of the busiest airports to ever fly in, and you've got 2 air traffic controllers there working it. You feel bad, Mike, but I just wanted to say that, and go Jays, go, buddy. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Kyle, appreciate the call. And I'm glad you started on that note, because we had precious little time with John Graddick earlier, just before the noon update. And there are, every time you peel another layer off this onion, I'm sure you have heard the sounds from the air traffic control tower at LaGuardia on the weekend when this plane was coming in. But just by way of reminder, here it is.
Was the vehicle needed across the runway? Truck 1 and company, LaGuardia Tower. Truck 1 and company.
Truck 1 Company, warning tower requesting to cross 4 at Delta. Truck 1 Company, cross 4 at Delta. Truck 1 Company, 4 at Delta. Frontier 4195, just stop there, please. Stop. Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop, Truck 1, stop.
You can hear the urgent appeal. Stop, Truck 1, stop. Stop. And, of course, Truck 1 did not stop. You heard our guest before the noon update say a transponder wouldn't have changed anything. This was human error. And I've got a few questions. And one thing that I learned in all of this, among the questions, why did that air traffic controller stay on the job after this, what turned out to be a fatal mistake? Because there has been audio shared of this same voice continuing to direct the traffic at the airport to various hangars, etc. I mean, surely he's well aware of what just happened, and yet there's no relief for him. He has to stay on the clock, on the job, moving around these other planes. I have a hard time with that. And, you know, there's other audio that you can hear an interaction between him and another air traffic controller, and, you know, the other air traffic controller says nothing you could have done, or you did the best you could. And unfortunately, I mean, the best you could certainly wasn't good enough. And I know I'm adding even more responsibility to what is already an incredible role, but this guy's carrying this for the rest of his days. Plain and simple. It was just it was a fatal mistake. We all make mistakes. This was a fatal mistake made. And the idea, what I learned in this too, is that transponder that was talked about, and I heard from the National Transportation Safety Board in its most recent update yesterday, there was no transponder on this particular fire truck, but it just indicated to me how many layers of safety there are in airplanes, around airports, etc. Because had the fire truck had a transponder and had it been working, then there would have been a warning within that fire truck to not cross the runway because there was imminent danger, no matter what the air traffic controller had said. Imagine that scenario. Transponder in the fire truck and transponder working, and they're getting clearance from the tower. Go ahead, Truck 1, cross runway 4, and they're approaching the runway, and the transponder sounds the alarm, and the driver of that fire truck heeds the alarm and stops and sees the jet just come screaming across the runway in front of him where he would have been had there not been a transponder. If that was all in place, I never for 1 second considered that level of technology and or additional safety measure added to what's happening at an airport. We know how busy these places are. I've never thought about it to that detail, but learning about that was a bit of an eye-opener for me. But I am really curious as to why this particular air traffic controller remained on the job even after this, as of course we now know, fatal mistake. And what it's telling us about the pressure put on these people, the hours that they are tasked with working, it just goes on and on. Just an awful situation all around. Back to the phones as we continue Talkback. Grumpy Phil is here. Hey, Phil, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You know what's up tonight?
What's up tonight? Who now?
Oh, you know what's on the agenda? The Charles Strait Terminal Block. You're one of your favorites.
Let's talk about it, Phil. Bring me your best ideas.
I think this is a golden opportunity to finally have that downtown. Remember years ago, Carl's there and revitalizing the downtown and the block that rocks. We finally have an opportunity under the region to really do what's right. You've talked about it before on the show. You've got the goggle blocks. You've got the parking garage. You've got buildings that are sitting empty. Let's do what's right, but let's do what's right for everybody. Let's make it available for everybody. Let's do housing. Let's do the downtown, the rec complexes that we don't have along the LRT. I mean, the $1 billion LRT is right there. Let's do what's right for not just one lobby group, but for everybody in the region. So I can't be there tonight, and I wish I was sitting there with my Jon Stewart bag of popcorn and watching the fireworks. But let's get people planning and listen to what's good for everybody in the region. I mean, this is a golden opportunity tonight to see what's the real future of that block of the downtown.
You really think there's going to be fireworks? I've seen one delegation listed on the agenda to talk about, I suppose, their vision. But other than that, I think this is just going to be a formality, isn't it? We're declaring the land surplus. Let's move on.
I think not fireworks tonight, but in the long term, what happens and what doesn't happen to it. When people realize what should have happened, similar to the encampment lands, we'll just let it sit there, and next thing you know, it starts to boil over. Why didn't we do this? We had an opportunity. This is a golden opportunity to really do something with that whole area of the downtown Kitchener, which is, currently this is a regional issue because of who owns the land, but this is an opportunity to really open some doors and really think forward with that property.
Phil, great to hear from you. Enjoy the council meeting tonight.
Oh, have a great night, my friend.
You too. Thank you. I will be tuning in for as much as I'm able. And you know that Phil is preaching to the choir here. I've said this before. I'll sum it up this way. Yes, we have problems to solve in this community, big problems to solve in this community. And we need the people on council who are dedicated to solving those problems. We also need a few dreamers. And I'm worried that this incredible opportunity is going to be generally passed over. I mean, something will happen with that land, and it will be something. I don't mean that in the excited way. Oh, you're really something. I mean, just something's going to happen there. But I don't think anything of great significance will happen there. It's an opportunity to chart a new course for downtown Kitchener, the largest municipality in our region, in its core. What an opportunity lies before us. Phil mentioned Carl Zare, the former mayor of Kitchener, and how he was able to bring some life back into the downtown. That was what was known as EDIF, the EDIF, the Economic Downtown Investment Fund. Kitchener Council, under Carl Zare's mayoralty, increased funding for the downtown so that it could be transformed. Now, that was primarily around attracting post-secondary institutions. There's a Wilfrid Laurier University campus and a University of Waterloo School of Pharmacy, right? So you've got the School of Social Work from WLU. That's in the old St. Jerome's High School building. And you've got that School of Pharmacy there at the corner of King and Victoria. Then you've got the business that's there, right? The Bright Up block with Google there. You've got everything that's happened with the Lang Tannery building. Communitech is housed in there, and so many more. That was really, and bringing people, bringing workers downtown. Manulife was there. They have since abandoned, but there was a critical mass of employment in the downtown, and that got things moving in a positive direction again. We have certainly stalled in that regard. And I'll take this back to the conversation we had earlier with the Civic Coalition that has tallied up $36 billion in misspending by the Ontario government since the Progressive Conservatives and Premier Ford took the reins back in 2018. And a lot of this, it does make sense. Corporate bailouts on 407 fees, more than $1 billion, in my opinion, whizzed away when we accelerated the privatization of alcohol. You know, the millions of dollars spent fighting legal battles in court, one of which was for the declaration that capping public sector wages was unconstitutional, but the province decides to fight that in court with our money. So the bribe we got pre-election in 2025, late 2024, I think it came in, but it was a $3 billion repayment to Ontario taxpayers. Those billions could have been used elsewhere. The license plate sticker renewals, I could go on and on. There were lots of things there that we could easily look at as having been misspent, and what could we have done with that money instead of what we did with it. And one of the arguments from the Civic Coalition was, well, what about the Ontario Science Centre and this plan for a big convention centre? And that's where I actually find myself a little bit more in lockstep with the Premier, because that's what I'm saying should happen on these surplus lands in downtown Kitchener. I know they're regionally owned and it's sitting in the core of the municipality of the city of Kitchener. That's going to make things ugly no matter what, because regional versus municipal and the two-tier government system, that's going to make things more difficult than they need to be. But I would love to see something grand and exciting happen there. And frankly, if all we end up with is more housing, meh. I'm kind of meh on that. But I really hope that we do not waste the opportunity that is before us, because it's an opportunity. So Regional Council, if you're listening in preparation of tonight's meeting, I'm begging you, one of the 16, can you come forward and say, let's pause where we're at and let's talk about what could be. Let's dream a little bit around the Regional Council horseshoe and give our community something to be excited about. I know money doesn't grow on trees. I know. But I also know that if all we focus on is solving problems, we become a very boring problem-solving place. And I'm ready for a little pizzazz. It's the Farwell Show, Talkback Hour, 570 News Radio. Every day, noon to 1, we open our phone lines and invite you into the conversation. It's our daily Talkback Hour, reflections on the issues of the day that we've discussed and maybe you didn't get to have your say before, or something brand new you want to bring to our attention. Let's go to Andre next. Good afternoon, Andre.
Good afternoon, Grand Pumbaa. So, yeah, I was listening, and yes, you have great ideas. That's why we voted you, and as our Grand Pumbaa, and we need great ideas. And there was sometime, I think somebody said maybe a casino, because we need something to attract people. And I was thinking maybe also like a Farwell bar, nightclub. That would be one that would attract a lot of people because you're so known.
Andre, you got some big ideas. Boy, you should run for regional council. We'll call it Farsies, though. How about that?
No, we'll call it Gazoo.
Farsies, Barsies.
I love it. So, and I want everybody to honk their horn 3 times. Let's go Rangers. It's I'm very excited, Mike. Just like Blue Jays, we were saying earlier, big expectation. Especially also with UC Oakis, Mike McKenzie, the whole shebang that I'm forgetting the name, sorry, but I listened to you, and JP. And I'm very excited for this year to see what's going to happen. We did beat the snow record.
No, we did not beat the snow record. Don't get confused.
You just dropped my face. But that's okay because I have a sense of humor that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie with what's happening in...
Andre, how many different directions are you going in today? Now you're on Die Hard as a Christmas movie?
No, it's not a Christmas movie.
It's not a Christmas movie. You're right.
The accident happened.
I beg your pardon?
Because of the accident that happened. I think that's a Die Hard movie.
I think Andre just hung up the phone on me.
No, I'm there.
Oh, okay.
No, because that's what I was thinking. Die Hard movie, right? And with the incident that happened over there, I was thinking maybe terrorists. But
which incident are you talking about?
The airplane that crashed.
Oh, okay. That was Die Hard 2.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. Take care, my friend.
Okay, you too, Andre. I have no idea what that was about. That was so many different directions. But hey, I'm here for Farsies Barzy. Let's go. Grant, good afternoon.
Farwell and Vickers.
Farwell and Vickers. What's that? It sounds like a law firm. Do we cheat them and how?
That's what they should have for that complex on Charles Street.
Okay, get rid of the bus terminal, replace it with a complex called Farwells and Vickers.
Yeah, why
okay.
not?
All right.
That sounds pretty cool.
That sounds great. Let's make it Vickers and Farwell, though, okay?
All right.
All right.
Health Canada, my goodness, I wish they wouldn't do this. I used to drink this Beatrice orange juice in carton, and now they've got this logo, high in sugar. Well, why didn't they bring that out before I was born? My goodness. And I used to drink these Boathouse drinks, and now they have this ding-dang logo. Shame on you for not putting that out earlier. My goodness.
Well, Grant, the more we know, right? And the more we spend time researching things, then the better informed we are to make you better informed as a consumer. You see how that works? Every day you learn just a little bit more, and now those warnings are going on. They're like suggestions. Hey, if you're drinking this, it's pretty high in sugar. Just want you to be aware. I'm sorry it didn't come out before you were born, but I guess we've figured it out since then. When Grant started talking about Health Canada and drinking, I thought we were going to get into Hamilton Beer Store guy. Can I have 2 liters of pop? What's healthier, 2 liters of pop or 6 beer? Do the math. It's the Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. The daily Talkback Hour happens noon until 1, giving you the chance to share reflections on the thoughts or the issues of the day, or share with us something you think should be the issue of the day. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. You can email as well, mike@570news.com. Priority, though, will always be given to those who make the call. But Clinton sends an interesting email about the big news of the day provincially. And that, of course, is Ontario Premier Doug Ford's pledge to give that HST break for new home purchases. And Clinton says he's not convinced this is going to increase housing starts in any meaningful way. Most people looking for a new home already own a condo or a starter home, says Clinton, and they can't move unless they sell it. Right now, many can't. A friend of mine recently lost a home they wanted because they couldn't find a buyer for their small semi-detached. They eventually pulled their listing. This is happening across the market, and the real issue is that not enough new buyers can afford to enter at the bottom. For example, I pay $2,000 a month in rent, and I live reasonably comfortably. But even with careful budgeting, saving for a down payment fast enough to get a mortgage anywhere close to my current rent is nearly impossible. Cutting contributions to my kids' education or my retirement wouldn't make a meaningful difference. It would just make life more stressful. If the government wants to spur development, they need people to enter the market. Financing reforms would be far more effective, longer amortization periods, lower minimum down payments, and removing penalties for buyers who can't put 20% down. Those changes would actually allow renters such as myself to transition into ownership and free up the starter home market and the rental market. Any thoughts further on that? See, here's the thing. Like, the stress test that we have, I know it's not easy to get a mortgage, but of course we want to make sure that we're not running into myriad defaults on the mortgages that do get issued. I struggle a little bit. I hear this a lot about longer amortization periods. I'm stressed enough on the 25 years that we've still got just under 15 years to pay. And that feels, especially for somebody my age, I got into the housing market a little bit late. But it's not for me anyway, it's not the most comfortable feeling even at 25 years. If we're going to get into 30 and even beyond periods of amortization, I don't know. Maybe it's a me thing. If you think longer amortization periods are the way to go, I get it. Lower minimum down payments, that just means you're carrying more debt for a longer time. I don't know about that either. This, to me, all comes down to market conditions, right? Where borrowing is at for the potential buyer, and how developers, like what the market conditions are for them to get the building done. And, let's talk about the increases to development charges that were just approved in Waterloo. Cambridge is considering something similar. The amount of the tens of thousands of dollars that go into the cost of a home before a shovel even goes into the ground, it's pretty incredible. And I get it. The cities have to have some source of revenue to pay for all of the infrastructure that services those homes and the amenities that go around those neighborhoods. It is a very complicated issue, but we lost sight of this issue far too long ago for anything to fix it quickly. So is the HST break for new home purchases the right answer? Clinton doesn't think so, but if you do, or you've got another suggestion as to what could spur the housing market, we're always all ears here on Talkback. Jesse is with us on the phone. Good afternoon, Jesse.
Good afternoon, Mike. Got a bit of a tangent for you.
Sure.
So, been having a bit of an issue as parents, my husband and I. We have a couple of young children. My husband is a sports guy. I support his hobbies. But we let our 6-year-old daughter stay up last night because she's getting into sports with him to watch the Toronto-Ottawa game. And we figured it's a hockey game. There's no big deal. It's all good. But during the commercial break, he and I got into a conversation, weren't really paying attention until our 6-year-old piped up and said, I don't want to watch that movie about killing because a horror trailer with graphic things came up and we didn't notice to change the channel. But this was at 8:30 because I checked the clock. I'm like, how late is it? I recall when I was a kid, they didn't show that stuff until 9 or even 10. So we're wondering, is this a new thing? Are we not able to let our kids stay up past 8 if we don't want them to watch that kind of trailer?
That, Jesse, is a very interesting question, and I appreciate the tangent. I'm always here for it. I seem to recall that there was an actual timeline, like a curfew on such things. And I seem to recall that timeline was 9 p.m., after which you would get into even advertisements that were a little bit more adult-themed. I could be mistaken on that hard line of 9 p.m., I can certainly understand the concern. I did not watch the Toronto-Boston game last night, so I couldn't say for sure. I guess what I would say initially is good thing that you were all there, and I guess it just becomes the reminder that as parents, you must be constantly on alert for the next thing that you might wish that your kids weren't seeing. Do you change the channel to another one if that commercial comes on? I don't know what the easy answer is to that, but I guess it just reminds us that we must be ever vigilant. I grew up in a home where we followed, by the letter of the law, the letter on the movie rating. So G for general. I think we had that before it was F for family. But anyway, and then it had PG for parental guidance. Somewhere along the line, we brought in PG-13. Then when I was a kid, the big one was AA, adult accompaniment for anybody under 14. And I felt like a pretty big deal when I turned 14 and I could go see those movies that had a AA rating. And then, of course, there was the R rating. And let me tell you, never, ever was I ever allowed in our household when we went to Steve's TV to rent our videos, could I rent something or would my parents bring home something with a rating that was above that of the kids in the house. So there were never restricted movies in the house. Of course, we had friends whose parents weren't so strict and we could watch the restricted movies there. But it's a tough one, Jesse. And as I said, I guess it's just a reminder that we must pay very close attention to all of the things. Look, I find today, have you heard my language on the radio sometimes? Again, I grew up in an era where you wouldn't even say HE double hockey sticks, jackwagon. Sometimes I use the H word, sometimes I use the D word. I have talked about being peed off before. There was a time you would never, ever do that amongst polite company, which maybe just demonstrates how impolite I am. That's my tangent from your tangent, but appreciate you bringing that forward. Interesting times. Tony is with us on Talkback. Good afternoon, Tony.
Hey, good afternoon. So I'll just do a little rant, I guess. Recently filling out an application for to rent a house, and I'm in my 50s, stable career. And I understand, for farmer homeowner, you want to make sure you've got the right people in there. So, no problem. Of course, you want the standard, the credit check, the first and last, the references, all that stuff, pay stubs, letter of employment, a kidney, all of those regular stuff, whatever you want, right? And it's fine, right? So then, but there was one section on there where it says, copy of all of your bank accounts for the last 6 months. And, when I questioned, I go, why? I go, is it to, confirm my pay stubs? And the guy actually says, well, I want to see what your spending habits are. And this is the world now, that we live in, that a potential landlord gets to go and scrutinize where I buy my groceries from, or which gas station I go to. And I'm just thinking, you're already charging an ungodly amount of money, so I can pay your mortgage off in half the time. But is it really right to be asking people for 6 months of their bank statements from every account that they have? Because I think that's a bit much. You can buy a house and they don't ask you for that. Anyways, there's my rant. Other than that, everything else is great.
Out of curiosity, Tony, did you fill out the application? Or did you give up?
No, I said, no, I wouldn't do it. What I offered to them was I said, I can show you. I said 6 months of it. I go, but I'm blanking everything out. I'll show you my deposits. I can verify my income. I go, but again, which Tim Hortons I go to or gas station or whatever. And I was genuinely wondering, if there's a legitimate reason for it, okay, maybe I don't understand it. But the response was that they wanted to look at my spending habits to see if that was appropriate. I already have parents, and like I said, I'm in my 50s, so that to me I just thought it's a little too much. But, it's I guess, a renter's market or a seller's market, so you got to do what you got to do.
Bingo. Tony, appreciate the call. Thanks for sharing that. Enjoy your day. That's exactly what I was thinking, because I'm not sure I would. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. I would have been like Tony, say, I'll go find another rental, thank you very much. But I think that is a product of the renter's market as opposed to the rentee. Anyway, the person doing the renting. Plenty of demand out there for housing. So you can, I guess, kind of write your own rules around who it is that is best to rent your particular unit or home and how you determine who it is that's the best. But that does seem like a little bit much. A credit check, absolutely. Pay stubs, of course. But if I'm demonstrating that I have income sufficient to pay the rent that you're asking, I don't think I need to itemize for you my spending. Thank you very much. It's your daily Talkback Hour on the Mike Farwell Show. You're always welcome to be a part of the conversation. This is 570 News Radio. Your Talkback Hour every day is your opportunity to do just that. Talk back at us, 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Liam is next with us on Talkback. Good afternoon, Liam.
Good afternoon, my friend. I wanted to say that I'll definitely go and listen to the Yoshi interview you had. That was a great thing you mentioned to me yesterday during the Talkback Hour. Also, it was interesting listening about the Blue Jays and stuff because they're a team that I've been following for a couple of years now. And I mean, the bar is now very high with them now. And I think the country is expecting them to win a World Series soon. So we'll see how things go with them.
I think it's going to be a very interesting Blue Jays season because of the expectations that come with it. I don't think anybody expected much last year. Certainly not a Game 7 World Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers that we know went against the Blue Jays. But yeah, coming into a season with expectations is new for this club. I'm looking forward to it. Jays open on Friday, and Ian Hunter, the one and only Blue Jay Hunter, joins our show every Wednesday morning at 11 throughout the baseball season.
Yeah, absolutely. And wanted to say that I plan on every time the Rangers are on the road, and if I have a chance to watch the game, I'm going to mute the TV, but also put on 570 News to listen to Mike Farwell and Josh Piercy call out the game, because I feel like if I can't get the home feed and stuff, the main people like Jason, Dan, or Sean, I might as well listen to Mike and Josh and stuff. But that not going to stop me from listening as well whenever you guys are at home either. I mean, I honestly was glad to tune in on Saturday when the Rangers had an incredible comeback with the Owen Sound attack. And that team, the young boys, did much better than what I saw with them when they played Guelph in their final game last season. So let's go Rangers.
All right, Liam, good to hear from you today. Let's go Rangers indeed. That playoff series, round one versus the Saginaw Spirit, opens on Friday night at the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Game 2 is Sunday. Game 3 is next Tuesday. Game 4 is next Thursday. You can do like Liam and follow along right here on your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey with the radio broadcast while we're on the road. It's pretty easy to sync up with the pictures on TV, so you can have the TV pictures and the radio going along with it. You can do that on home ice too. I've heard from lots of folks that like to do that. Josh and I are always happy to have the ears. We think we can bring you some pretty good insights because of how much time we spend around the rinks in this league. But hey, as long as you are cheering for the Rangers, that's all that really matters in these here parts, doesn't it? We are hoping for a long playoff run. By the way, Kitchener Rangers first-line center Sam O'Reilly has been named, in case you missed it, the OHL's Player of the Month. He had himself a whale of a month of March. So what a nice feather in his cap as we head into the postseason. It all starts on Friday night versus the Saginaw Spirit, and we will have every game for you, home and away. And after every home game, of course, Josh and I stick around late, take your phone calls on Rangers Talk. I don't know if you were listening at the beginning of the show today, but if you weren't, we talked about a proposal. It was brought forward by Kitchener Councillor Bill Ioannidis at Monday's council meeting in Kitchener for what's going to be called the Kitchener Legacy Walk project. And he got the full unanimous support of his fellow councillors. And the idea would be to, in a perfect world, launch this initiative in 2029, which would be the 175th anniversary of Kitchener as a city. But what's the Legacy Walk, you ask? Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. It would be a series of murals and other installations along a pathway from Victoria Park up to the center in the square. So I can already envision a number of different paths that could take, but the idea would be to permanently recognize some of our most accomplished citizens who have gone on to do great things and are recognized internationally for that, which I think is pretty cool. I worry a little bit, or maybe I should, no, let me rephrase that. I hope this means that we have sort of ended the trend of removing names from things because they should no longer be celebrated and or recognized, because that's the first thing that comes to mind with this. I mean, how long did we talk about names on schools, names on streets, names on buildings? And, you know, the running joke was we should just put a number on everything so we don't have to go through these conversations when new sensibilities emerge sometime down the road. So if you put that aside and look at this as a hopeful sign that maybe we've moved past that and we can recognize people from this city who have gone on to international renown for whatever reason, I think is a great thing. I think it's inspiring to see people like that from your city. I'm thinking already of somebody like David Morrell, who created the character of Rambo Yeah, Sylvester Stallone made him famous on film, but the book, the story of John Rambo, by none other than David Morrell, who went to St. Jerome's High School. Heck, David Eby, the premier of British Columbia, went to St. Jerome's High School. I don't know if he wants to be, I don't know. And then we get into the politicians too. And it hasn't been a great run for Premier Eby out in BC. But anyway, David Morrell jumps out to me as somebody immediately who comes to mind. Rob Carley is a guy I went to high school with and is a very accomplished classical musician. His music has scored many productions, too many. I couldn't even count them all over the years. But I have no doubt that he is internationally recognized for his music. And those are just a couple that immediately jump out to me. So I think it would be pretty great. And I hope that the city of Kitchener does get this off the ground, and we are all inspired by those who walked these same streets before we did and went on to become internationally recognized in their field. Got to get out of here for another day. Now you know with Rob Snow is coming up before All News Afternoons with Aaron Anderson and Paul McPhee. I will be back tomorrow morning at 9, and you, of course, are invited to the conversation. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.